This was already the fourth can of energy drink in the last hour. I'd gotten hooked on them and was now drinking them like soda. Drank them just so I wouldn't be bored. Yeah, me again, work. Lots of it. First one thing, then another. And now, I turned the radio down and started talking out loud. It was an outrage. I was just furious. They order me around like a rag. They say, "Hey lackey, carry this," and I carry it. "Hey lackey, take it away." "As you wish, sir." Every time I tell myself, enough. You got a job as a driver for an office, to haul papers, pens, notebooks, maybe the girls from the office if they ask, and your beloved self. Not all this crap.
Why do I just stand there and mumble like a sheep instead of saying, "You need it, you fat bore, so you haul it, and if you don't like it, fire me"? Every time they call me. I know why. Every time they tell me, "Kolenka, we'll give you 30 grand, we really need it. Kolenka, our treasure, there's no one else. Go on, little falcon, and we'll pay you, right upon arrival, and we'll give you a week's vacation, on our dime." If the first time I took the job with enthusiasm, the second time, not so much. And now, on the 7th time, I was saying, no. Well, sort of saying, no. I said, firm as could be. But my boss always found a way to persuade me so that I'd somehow agree again. It pissed me off that they could just buy me like this, I thought. I want to be sold for a proper salary, not for these sweet little words and all that. I feel like a straight-up object, not a man with character who could kill wolves with his bare hands and fell trees with a kick, but some spineless lapdog. I thought about it, and I had reasons to be so angry. Not just ones I made up, but objective ones too. That dark road gave me the chills, all of it. Yeah, this isn't the taiga or Siberia. Yeah, there are settlements dotted all over the place, both small and large, a whole damn lot of them. And there's a road. Well, almost. In short, everything's there. But the road itself is, well, a 2-day drive to the edge of the region. My small truck was packed with the most necessary and important stuff. I was like a messenger, and I mainly delivered spare parts, consumables as well as documents, certificates, vouchers, you name it. But the truck was always packed to the roof. I didn't like the region itself. I had a feeling I was falling into the Middle Ages. Frequent fogs, those fallen leaves, no lighting on most of the route, and the people, it could be pretty wild out here. Sometimes you're driving, you look, 6 o'clock, the sun is set, and you can't help but think, any minute now, witches will fly across the sky on their mortars to a Sabbath, and in the village, they'll burn a couple of people for some insane purpose. And the villages here? Seriously, my God. The guys at the base used to say there are a couple of villages nearby where the population is 2 families, and in another, just 1 person. No electricity, nothing. Total isolation. I always put myself in the shoes of a resident of such a place. No store, no people, nothing. What could you do there alone, for example? And what's even scarier is there's nowhere to go. It's probably some old grandma who gave up on herself a long time ago, let alone her grandkids and kids. It's a known fact that you take good parents and relatives with you, or at least you try to. It's better to be in a bad city than in a village like that. The forests here are dense, gloomy, and stretch on and on, and on. Hell, it seems to me that in forests like these, Baba Yaga still runs around in her hut, and other fairy tale horrors live on. By the way, speaking of the horror of my trips for this job, our company is in the logging business, felling, sawing, all that stuff. The headquarters is in the city, but the people, the field crew, usually work on the ground out there somewhere. Right now, they've set up a spot for them in an abandoned village. There's road access almost to the house, power from a generator, and a river nearby. So the amenities were poor, but they existed. And also, the proximity to the forest and the absence of people. Even in the morning you go out, it smells of pine needles and it's just gloomy. It's hard to be there, the sky is mostly leaden, and the people themselves aren't very cheerful. They lived in abandoned, poorly equipped huts and some in trailers. As the auto mechanic said, If there were a place to buy booze, he'd start drinking himself into a stupor here, because sometimes it gets so miserable you just want to get hammered and forget everything. And I believed them. The silence there is truly terrifying, and the night is absolute. You go out at night, you look, and you see and hear nothing. If there's wind, only the trees creak. It's unpleasant to be there. It seems like nothing, but you still try to stick close to the people, to the light. Because there, however poorly, life was set up. The guys who work there are sullen, and personally, I don't really want to talk to them. They despise me, though I don't understand why. They're always asking me for favors and stuff. One time I brought them wiring for the equipment, and they told me, "Where are you going? Help us install it, or there'll be downtime." To my objections like, "What am I, an electrician? You want it done, do it yourself." They'd call the management, who would then persuade me to help again. 2 days on the road, another couple of days there, and 2 days back. It was just beyond good and evil. And it would be one thing if the guys were actually doing something. But no, they're in no hurry. They have a contract. They'll get paid either way. So they're in no rush, well, almost. One time I arrived at lunchtime, brought the parts, everything they needed. I say, "These parts weigh a ton, I need help." But they waved me away like an annoying fly and said, "Hey, hold on, don't rush. The harvester is still working. When the operator gets back, you two can unload it. We don't have any loaders here, sorry, and we don't get paid for unloading. He needs it, and you need it. So you two unload it, or you can call the mechanic." Of course, I was furious. I walked out thinking about just dumping everything on the ground and driving home. I'm only supposed to deliver it. But I knew how it would end. Again, hello, Kolya, our little falcon. We're helpless without you, help us out. We'll give you a longer vacation. You'd think, so what? They pay you, they give you vacation. What's wrong with that? First, the crew itself is sullen and gloomy. Second, there were exactly enough beds for them, which meant I had to sleep in the cab. And that is, oh, so uncomfortable, or on the floor in a hut, but I preferred the cab. Third, the conversations. It was clear that some of the guys there had done time. They had peculiar views, and they could kill you for a careless word. Every evening they would gather in the foreman's hut. They'd talk and brainstorm about something, and it was fine if it was about work, which sometimes happened, but some stories were a bit off topic. Here are a few of them. That's how it was, guys. That's exactly how it was. Night, dark. I'm turning around and I see an old woman standing there, ugly as sin, grinning a toothless smile, a black scarf tied on her head, dressed in dark clothes, the kind people usually wear to the cemetery. At first I thought I was imagining things. What nonsense, an old woman in the woods. But sinner that I am, I reached for my screwdriver, and the filthy ghoul is just standing there, choking with laughter. I drove closer. I'm thinking, I'm about to slice you into equal pieces, Grandma. But she vanished, just like fog. That's Ninka Bashkankova. Who? Yeah, I saw her too when I was hauling timber. I stopped at the Springs, at the store. The topic came up, so I asked, and they told me it was her. And what's she famous for? She was a crazy old woman, a poisoner, and completely batshit crazy. She lived somewhere around here, her and her grandson, and he got killed in a fight. Not on purpose, of course. Unfortunately, that kind of thing happens, and he was basically the last of his line, so she lost it. When she buried him, she didn't say a word, didn't even cry, didn't shed a single tear. Well, who could judge her? It was a terrible thing. Her family line ended with him. Everything was for nothing. Everyone had lived in vain. So she snapped, and she went insane. You know how they say, don't keep it inside. Well, she burned out, basically, went nuts and lost her mind. She walked around in black, barely spoke. She was already an old woman, but she seemed to age another 10 years. Well, everyone understood it was grief, so no one said anything. And then, like a plague, the villagers started to swell up and die. It hit one day, and it hit so hard that 5 people died in one day, and many were in a terrible state. And when the 9th resident died, the old woman came out to the center of the village and started screaming that it was her,
that she had poisoned the water in the well for her grandson. She wished for everyone there to die, for their family lines to be cut off, that everything was in vain, and so on. Then she ate something herself and died. You know how village gossip is. They'll invent 200 people for a good story, but they decided not to bury the old woman, but to burn her like a damned witch, so she would burn in this life and the next. Which is why she's still suffering, because she promised to take revenge from the other side on everyone involved and not involved in her grandson's death. And they say she still walks around sometimes, like an apparition.
Once a year, almost everyone sees her. Sometimes she's standing on the side of the road, hitchhiking, asking for a ride. Sometimes she follows someone in the woods, trying to catch them. Sometimes she just stands and stares. So you'll believe anything out there. That's the kind of tale they told me, the man said, taking a sip of tea and biting into a dry biscuit. He was sitting with everyone at the common table. You drivers are all talk, never get any work out of you. It's either the store or the local women inviting you over while we're breaking our backs here. I don't get it. Are you blaming me for something or what? You signed up to fell trees and now you don't like it. Don't like it? Go be a driver. And if your backpack's too heavy, don't whine, you put it on yourself, so carry it.
Quiet, he's right. What about you, driver? And who are you? All right, fine, enough, forget it. And as for ghosts and poisoners and all that, there's definitely something to it here. I saw that hunched over death in a scarf myself. It stood there and snarled so viciously that I grabbed my axe. But that's nothing, brothers, that's all just smoke. It'll stand there, snarl, and then scram. I'll tell you a wilder story now, and I was part of it. I was young, a real kid. My old man was a combine operator, worked on a Neva harvester, and he'd take me with him. I loved it all. He'd put me behind the wheel, and he'd be drinking or wander off somewhere, and I'd be thrilled. So, here's what happened that day. My old man overdid it a bit, and the guys who were hauling grain took him to the way station to sleep it off with the girls there. 'Cause what good was he when he had a sober replacement? Me.
I couldn't have been happier that day. I was a man, what else? And back then I had a cassette player, headphones. Brothers, it was a fairy tale. Turned on the radio, sitting behind the wheel of the combine, loading up the drivers. Isn't that beautiful, huh? Beautiful. But this isn't about my feelings. So the combine started heading back from the fields, 'cause the field was done. It's night, there's a moon, and I objectively can't leave. The chairman was a shitty person. He might meet us at the base to see if the workers were slacking off, and there I am. Well, he wouldn't say a word to me, of course, but he'd fire my father. Why would he need a drunkard like that? And then you understand the bonuses and everything else, all gone. And we'd be eating, dressing, selling, and fueling the car only with what grew in our garden. You get it, right? So I made the decision to leave the combine in the field. It was a distant field. Who would go there, right? So nobody would touch the machine. And even if they did, I could always say when I got back, it broke down, that's why I left it. It had happened before, so I decided to do that. It was way better than being seen. As I was emptying the hopper, Uncle Sasha came up to me and said, "Finish up and climb in with me. I'll give you a ride. You can hop out at the way station and go home with your father." But I was getting really slow by the end of the day, and I told him no, like there was no need, I'd walk. I didn't want to go home from there, especially with my father. Well, he nodded and drove off, and I realized I'd made a stupid mistake when I parked the combine at the edge of the field, closer to the village and the tree line. I got out of the cab. It was fresh outside, humid, the moon was shining, and the fields were clear. To the right, the village lights were glowing. I thought, well, it's not far, I'll walk. I was about to go when suddenly, I see a person in the moonlight running towards me. Who? I can't tell. But he's running, the damned soul, and I'm standing on the platform, freezing with terror. What the hell was I supposed to do? He was running from far away. I even thought, maybe it's my father. But then I realized, no, not him. It was scary. It was dangerous. And what to do was unclear. Well, I think, the moon is bright. I'll wait and see who it is. What's the point of being scared of everything? It just looks that way. That was my second mistake. When it got closer, I realized it was a person. Yes,
but a strange and terrifying one. It rushed at me in silence, climbing up, or rather, flying up. I had just snapped out of my stupor and jumped into the cab, but it had grabbed my arm, and we saw a hideous scar. Down to the bone, guys, I swear, down to the bone. It tore my arm to shreds, up to the elbow, and it's a good thing it was my left.
So, I'm in the cab. In the cab, I have a tire iron, a knife to cut hoses, and a screwdriver to pry things. I grabbed something, but this person was already in the cab, so I stabbed him with the knife, once, and twice, and 3 times. He's screaming, shaking me, and only when I screamed, "Lord, help me," and I was already prepared to die, because he was growling like some kind of dog. Yeah, only then did he take off. He bruised my stomach, messed up my face a bit, my arm. Well, I knew from custom that I had to bandage myself up, but with what? Only my t-shirt and an old rag. So, somehow, I wrapped the rag around my arm and tied my shirt over it, crooked and clumsy as best I could. Well, for the most part, the bleeding stopped, so that was fine. I was mumbling something, whispering, and then I passed out. In the morning, my father found me, started the combine, and drove to the base. From the base, they put me with Vaska, the chairman's son. He was a tough kid with an attitude, but when he saw me, he didn't even spare his car, just tore off to the city at once. Well, after that, I recovered, and I found out something from my dad. Turns out he was a prominent guy by village standards, and some woman wanted him for herself, wouldn't leave him alone. But my dad had me, my mother, and my sister. So she said, "If you don't want me, you won't belong to anyone." He thought she was joking, but turns out she wasn't. She went to her relative's grave, did something, and that relative decided to help his still living kin. They found the grave. It was her uncle or something, long since departed. The grave was dug up as if someone had clawed their way out, and the woman herself, apparently drowned in the river. So you took the hit for him, basically? Basically, yeah. See how it tore up my arm? And they told me I was lucky. The wounds were gruesome, deep, down to the bone, but nothing critical was hit. They said if it had been a little to the left, it would have hit an artery, and then rags and a t-shirt wouldn't have been enough. And the Lord decided it wasn't your time yet. Exactly, you're right. I still remember how I was sobbing, begging for help. I guess he did help. Save my sinless soul back then. At that, everyone fell silent, and after finishing my tea, I went to sleep in the cab. I stopped at a gas station. It was about 17 kilometers to my destination, 3 of which were on asphalt, and another 11 on a broken mess of mud and gravel. I hoped I'd get lucky and the road would be okay, and I'd get there without incident. I grabbed some chips, a sugar-free soda, and as I was paying, I saw the cashier's worried face. "Did something happen? You're not by any chance heading to the sawmill, are you?" "I am, why?" "You know, you'd be better off not going there today. The people there are bad. They've been saying for a long time that they're all going to die there soon." "Who's saying that?" "The locals, the old women, and just people among themselves. They say they hate those men and that the issue with them will be resolved soon. They're arrogant, they act worse than devils, and those who act like that will end up with them." Very reassuring, I said. "I hope I get out of here okay." "That all depends on you," the cashier said, and I, alarmed, drove on. The whole way I was thinking, maybe I should go home, maybe just wait until morning. I mean, it's a long road, anything can happen, but not an option. They had already called me 20 times saying the late parts were expected yesterday, so they asked me not to delay. If only you knew how little they care about you or your parts, I thought, but I decided to go anyway. Maybe, just maybe, this time they'll unload it and I can go home, and then they can do whatever the hell they want. I drove, thinking about it, remembering their conversations, and without noticing, I reached the settlement. Abandoned little houses were poorly equipped for living, and they had brought in some trailers. The equipment was parked in a lit area, and the whole setup was powered by a generator. I arrived, stopped by the foreman's house, and even as I approached, I realized something was wrong. Everyone was in the house, the whole crew, and no one was sleeping. Usually there were only a few people in the house, maybe 5 to 7, and they'd be having tea or coffee or just shooting the breeze. But now, everyone was there. Well, look who it is. Took you long enough.
I stayed silent.
All right, don't be mad. And listen to what I'm about to tell you, the foreman said. If you breathe a word of what you hear in here to anyone, your head will be gone within the week. Got it? Got it, I said, and didn't even bother asking about unloading. Look, kid, we're not kidding, someone else said, and they went back to their discussion. No, this won't work. Several logging trucks are coming tonight, and 2 more tomorrow, and 5 the day after. We have to ship it. Otherwise, they'll have our heads. And if we call now and say we have a body, we might as well go find the nearest tree and throw a rope over it. A body? I whispered. Yeah, kid, a body. It happens. People have a bad habit. They die. And it's even worse when something kills one of the guys. How did it happen? I asked in a whisper, so as not to interrupt the conversation between the foreman and his 2 deputies. That's what I called them.
How did it happen? Simple. He arrived, parked the equipment, and something tore him apart. For the last week, the animals around here have been acting like they've lost their minds. First the bears come, then a family of boars. They got into a trailer and found something to eat. Wolves are circling the base. We've seen them. It all started so suddenly, as if on command. But that's not the main thing. They tore Stiopka apart, and it wasn't a bear. There are no tracks, and definitely not a bear's, but a human's, he whispered. But there were bare human footprints. They came and went back into the forest. You get it? But a person couldn't have torn him up like that. He was literally ripped apart. Like, they came up and just started tearing off his limbs, like on a fly.
You, get over here, the foreman said, interrupting the conversation.
What is it? Do you know how to operate a harvester? No, I'm just a regular driver. You're not going home tomorrow. We'll unload your truck. We'll change out the parts and consumables. And then, all right, long story short, you'll help the mechanic. You'll keep your mouth shut. You'll make money. But if you run your mouth, you'll end up without it. Got it? Got it. After that, I stood silently and listened to their talk. The situation was much simpler. Some guys came, offered a deal. This logging here was illegal. They asked them to ship the timber, paid up front, and everything was fine. I wouldn't even have known if not for what happened. Something killed a colleague, and all the animals seemed to have gone mad and were circling the base. In the end, they were asked for either 18 or 27 truckloads of timber, and the money had already been paid up front, so the guys had no choice but to load it. And they decided to be clever, finish the job first. Tomorrow they wanted to call the boss, say that one of the employees had disappeared, and then, when the job was done, say they found him in the forest. And what tore him up, obviously, was a bear. Once the body was found, they'd play out the scene and quit. No one would blame them for all leaving after that. There was a nervousness hanging in the air, and I felt it especially keenly. I didn't just know that something was going to happen tonight. I was sure of it. Even the cashier had told me. And that meant I had to get the hell out of here. And preferably, soon. It was clear that they were a crew. They might have pulled this stuff more than once, maybe even while I was around, and I just didn't know or understand. That's why I was still alive. But now, after hearing everything, I had become an unwanted witness. And with someone like that, why would they bother checking if I'd tell anyone or not, when they could just make me shut up forever? Why didn't they kill me now, I thought, walking out of the house to my cab. They would have loved to, but they hadn't figured out who to tell and what to say yet. So now I'm going to sleep, or pretending to sleep, and they would most likely deal with the question of me, figure out how to stage it all cleverly, and as soon as that happened, they'd whack me. I couldn't slip away quietly, so there was only one solution, to leave on foot. Yes, it was a risk. Yes, there were wild animals. But wild animals in the forest were probably more honest than these ones in this house. I thought, realizing I had gotten into a mess. These guys couldn't be trusted. They would definitely betray me. I could, of course, call the boss and tell him everything, but who knows, maybe he'd call the foreman to check. Even if he came to investigate, something would happen to me anyway. I'd fall from somewhere or something like that. So the only option was to just bolt. They were supposed to die today anyway.
I got up quietly, listening to the raindrops.
The sounds had long since died down. I lay there, afraid, thinking they were about to come and cut me, but it was quiet. Many had gone to sleep, but not all. The light was still on in the house, and not too long ago Fedka had come up to the truck checking if I had bolted, but seeing me pretending to be asleep, he went back to the house. There was no question they were discussing me, and something was changing in the forest. I felt something approaching. The anxiety was growing. The animals had fallen silent, and there was no more time to wait. They are all going to die.
That's why I couldn't start the truck. They'd chase me, and that way not all of them would die. Even if it was just a tall tale and nothing happened, it was better to escape like this and make a call than to lie dead and feed the worms. And again, the rain. There was a light rain outside, which was very much to my advantage. It muffled some of the sounds. I opened the cab door and quietly climbed out. I closed the door gently and started running towards the road, through the mud, quietly at first, then faster, faster. And then, when the door of the house slammed shut, I booked it as fast as I could. For a while, of course, I thought they were already chasing me, that I was about to be caught. But instead, I heard wild screams, cries, and howls, and I realized that if I had stayed another 20 minutes, I would have been screaming along with them. I lied. Of course. I said that yes, I had made the delivery, but I had argued with the foreman about unloading, so I said screw it and left. What happened after that, I have no idea. But I did know something. In the local news groups, information flashed that an entire crew had been slaughtered, so brutally that the foreman's head was found half burnt in the furnace, and the less said about the others, the better. But then, for some reason, the news was quickly scrubbed, and for a long time after I thought about who that mysterious someone was, who all the locals knew about, and who was able to do it. Everyone has a dark period in their life, when for no apparent reason everything goes to hell. One thing piles on top of another and it becomes a complete nightmare. That's what happened to me. A long time ago I decided I wanted to be a long-haul trucker. You know, all those stories about what a romantic profession it is got stuck in my head, and being impressed and still at a pretty young age, I got my license and went for my dream job, or so I thought at the time. I found a company that did freight transport and I got a job there. I thought they would give me a semi and I would start traveling to different cities, but as often happens, they gave me some barely alive little truck that was scary to look at, let alone drive. They patted me on the shoulder back then and said, "First, learn to drive this one, and then we'll see." I huffed and puffed for a long time when I got into it, and I'd look with envy at the guys who would casually climb out of their huge rigs and go on long hauls. But still, I was grateful that they put me behind the wheel of that specific half-rotten truck. Everything about it was bad. Looking at the truck, you got the impression it was begging, "Kill me." But with the help of the mechanics, it still ran and could even haul something. Thanks to that vehicle and the advice of the mechanics, I learned a lot, specifically, how to repair a truck. On the road, even if it wasn't a long haul, a lot could happen, and if possible, you had to fix the truck to at least get to a service station. It was with that wreck that I experienced everything. If before I used to look at box wrenches and not know how to hold them, a couple of years later, thanks to it, I became a pro at tightening nuts and bolts. And if something broke on the road, I could fix anything as long as I had the tools. After some time, they moved me to a proper tractor unit. Well, proper. At least it didn't break down as often and was drivable. At first, I enjoyed the realization that I was sitting in a big warm cab in the winter, blowing smoke out the window, with a long road ahead of me. But most importantly, it was the money. I'm far from a perfect person. I don't do anything for a thank you. And I also want to eat well and dress well. So the main factor why I was in the freight business was precisely that. It was for them that I got up at 4 in the morning and drove to work. It was because of them I put up with the idiots at loading and unloading and all that paperwork hassle. Not to mention the attempts to run me off some deserted road to hijack my cargo.
Anyone who thinks being a long-haul trucker is some kind of paradise is deeply mistaken. You're constantly focused. You're on the road. Your mind is racing to deliver the load as fast as possible. Everyone and their mother is trying to screw you over because they all know that truckers are just millionaires in hiding. Even when you sleep, it's not a given that you'll wake up to find your cargo hasn't been stolen. Even on the road, nobody likes you because you're driving slowly and basically you're in everyone's way.
But the real hell on earth is the city and driving in bumper-to-bumper traffic. A lot of people just have no idea that you have blind spots and that if they squeeze in right next to your passenger door, you simply can't see them. This causes a lot of accidents, and naturally the trucker is always to blame. In short, it's not a job, it's a real headache. It only looks easy on the surface, like all you do is sit and turn the steering wheel. But back then, you could make real money in this business, and that's why I put up with everything that happened to me. And then, as the classic story goes, the goal was to save up some money and buy my own rig, so I wouldn't be working for the man, but for myself. And that's exactly what happened.
While I was driving all those years and talking to people, I thought that working for yourself would be a dream. I made the right connections and got an understanding of how everything worked. I bought my own semi-truck and was damn happy about it at first. When I did my first run for myself and made some very good money, I thought, this is it. This is happiness. I'll work for 5 years, buy whatever I want, and then we'll see. For the first little while, as you can imagine, everything was great. You could say I was living on the road, but I understood what it was for, and that kept me inspired. But when my engine broke down and I found out the cost of repairs, I was ready to go hang myself from the nearest tree branch. No, of course I knew the truck would break down, but I didn't expect such a dirty trick from the engine.
I thought for a long time about what to do, where to get the money for a new engine. It turned out that I had to borrow money, and the loan amount was not small at all. After the new engine replaced the old one, my life went downhill. No, nobody was trying to cheat me. I was paying back the money as we agreed, and the guy who lent it to me wasn't trying to profit off me in any other way. The problem was something else. Besides the engine, a truck has a ton of other parts that need maintenance, and that costs a lot of money. I worked like a dog, leaving myself just enough money for food, fuel, and a little extra just in case. All of it was to pay off the debt as quickly as possible. But the world doesn't stand still. While I was working and paying off my debts, a whole swarm of enthusiasts just like me had shown up. If before I could really make a good living, now, because of the large number of independent drivers who were willing to work for pennies, the prices were driven down. You had to work more, and you got paid less for it. And when I paid back the last of the money I had borrowed, I sat in my cab and started thinking about what to do next. A lot of time had passed while I was paying off debts and running around. Prices and life itself had changed. Now, the job of a trucker didn't seem so magical anymore, and the road was starting to make me sick. But I didn't want to sell the truck and get another job. I didn't know how to do anything else, and I didn't want to learn. After working for a while longer, I realized it was time to change the truck. I had been running my rig ragged, not sparing it at all, and on top of that, I wasn't maintaining it like I should have. I only replaced what was absolutely necessary to keep it moving, and naturally I bought the cheapest parts I could find. And now, to keep the truck running, I had to sink more money into it. Money that I had but didn't want to part with, because if I spent it now, I'd have to go back to slaving away. And there was no guarantee that something else wouldn't break and I'd have to work my tail off again. I was ready to sell my rig when I got a very interesting offer. When I was unloading at a warehouse, I struck up a conversation with one of the guys. He told me there was a company that would gladly hire a driver with experience for really good money. They'd provide the truck, and everything there was great, almost like a fairy tale, and he gave me a phone number. I didn't think much at the time about how he got the number for that company, but I took it and called the very next day. I had no desire to go to the meeting at all because the whole thing seemed very strange. First, they scheduled the meeting for 1:30 in the morning, outside the city, at some warehouses located in the incredible middle of nowhere. They explained that everyone was very busy, and there was absolutely no time, which was why the place and time were so odd. As I was driving there, I had a bad feeling.
What if I get there and someone clocks me over the head with a tire iron and dumps me in the bushes? The road itself was creepy. I was crawling through the fog on a narrow but excellent road. I drove slowly, flinching sometimes when the branches hanging from the trees scraped against the cab. Where the hell am I going? I thought. There are no warehouses here. I've driven around here more than once, never heard of any warehouses. And who builds a warehouse practically in the forest? Usually they try to build them closer to the roads to make access easier and faster. But this was some kind of thicket, and the road was sketchy too. If someone came driving towards me now, we wouldn't be able to pass each other. There was no real shoulder. Strange warehouses, but there was nothing to be done. I had no money, and no other orders either, so I had to keep going. After driving about 10 kilometers through the fog, I arrived at those same warehouses. I was met by meager lighting in the form of a single light bulb in front of the gate and an elderly security guard who was already standing there. "Where to?" he asked. "For an interview." He snorted disapprovingly and said, "Drive straight along the warehouse, then turn left. You'll see the entrance there," and went to open the gates. Strange place, I thought to myself as I drove onto the property. It was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And then there were the dogs. A whole pack of dogs was running around the territory, all of them skinny and mangy, with matted fur, baring their teeth as I drove past. I even thought, how am I going to get out of the truck? They'll eat me alive. But my fears were unfounded. When I pulled up to the entrance, where that single light bulb was burning, as they'd said, there were no dogs in sight. So I calmly went inside without any trouble. There's no point in describing what it looked like inside. There was nothing unusual. The most important thing was what they told me when I entered the office. The office was small, and inside there was only one person, a presentable-looking man. He was sitting at a desk in a leather chair, looking me over with interest. "Hello, my name is Sergey. I called you about the job." "I figured you were about the job. You're the only one we're meeting with today. We're not expecting anyone else," he replied, and pointed me to a chair that was nearby. "So what's the job? What kind of cargo am I hauling?" I started to ask. "First of all, Sergey, my name is Edward Petrovich, and I, as it happens, am your boss. So I'll ask you to be quiet for now." This guy really pissed me off. I got up from the chair and said, "Good day to you then," and pulled on the door handle. It didn't open. I was surprised to find it was locked. I spun around sharply, ready for the worst, but Edward Petrovich continued to sit in his chair with an unruffled expression. "Your doors are crooked, they don't open," I said, not giving up on trying. "Why are you so nervous? Sit down. Perhaps then the doors will open. Why are you so worked up? It seems you didn't like the way I spoke to you." "Well, I apologize. We pay very good money, and it's not our custom to stand on ceremony. Sit down, sit down. You're angry. I understand. But if you leave now, you might lose the best job of your life." He had me intrigued. All right, let's see what he has to say, I thought to myself. "Here is your contract." He pulled a single A4 sheet of paper from his desk drawer. "This is the contract? It's a bit small." "Well, the job isn't that big, and there's no responsibility. That's why it's so compact. Take it, read it." I walked over and snatched the sheet. I didn't bother reading the details and conditions. I was only interested in the salary. It was the kind of money I couldn't have made in a month and a half. "Have a seat. I'll tell you the what, how, when, and where." "So, Sergey, I understand you've already agreed. So listen up. What we do and what we haul is none of your business. You will be given a truck. You will be loaded and unloaded. What exactly you are carrying is none of your business. What if I get pulled over? You won't be. Our trucks drive everywhere and they are never stopped, so don't worry about it." What have I gotten myself into? I thought to myself. What if I get pulled over? "You won't be. Our trucks drive everywhere and they are never stopped, so don't worry about it." What have I gotten myself into? I thought. "Your work is at night. You'll come here and from here you will drive wherever you are told. When you are being loaded or unloaded, you are forbidden to leave the truck or to try in any way to see what's in there. Is that understood?" Yes, but what if there's an unforeseen situation, or if I roll the truck and the contents spill out, what then? Take my word for it. In all these years, not a single one of our trucks has ever rolled over. You will be driving to the same place every time. It's about a 3-hour drive away. After you're unloaded, you drive the truck off the territory of that plant and leave it by the gate. Another person will drive it back here from there. Your workday starts at 1 a.m. and ends around 5 a.m. Are you ready?
Of course, I said, after which my monotonous onboarding began. They gave me the keys to a rig, but the key was strange. I had never seen one like it. First, there was no logo on the keychain, or any numbers or letters, just a black fob with a key that was twice the size of a normal one, and the rig itself was a model I didn't recognize. It didn't look like any I had ever seen, but it looked quite impressive. On the other hand, what did it matter? My job was just one thing: come in every night, get loaded, and 4 hours later get the hell out of there. So who cares? I spent the next day thinking. Strange company, almost no lights on the property, doesn't show up on the map. They pay an insane amount of money for almost no work. Why can't I look at what they're loading me with? To hell with it. But the most important thing was that on the map, the location of this warehouse was shown as a solid forest. There were no roads and certainly no buildings. But tonight was my first day on the job. I was going to ride with another driver who already knew the route and would show me the way. This meant that the situation with this organization, which had no mention anywhere, might become clearer. I arrived at work by 1 a.m. The guard stopped me and said, "You wait here, son. Kolka is loading up now. You'll follow him from the gate. No need for you to be walking around the property right now." "From here it is then," I said, and pulled out a pack of cigarettes. I didn't have to wait long, about 10 minutes, and after that time I was sitting in the cab, getting acquainted with my, so to speak, mentor. "Seryoga," I said, extending my hand. Kolka, the man, who looked to be well over 50, answered cheerfully. "So, Seryoga, ready to memorize the route?"
Yep. All right then, let's go. I'll show you and tell you what's what. So, do they really pay that much here? Yeah, of course, and they give out bonuses every 3 months. Here, Seryog, as far as the work and money go, everything's great. Don't you worry about that. Then why is it so dark on the warehouse grounds? If they pay so much, they could have installed some lights. What, are you afraid of the dark? No, it's just strange. Kolka coughed, as if by accident, and started speaking much quieter. Seryog, everything here is strange and creepy. There's a whole set of unwritten rules here that you'll have to follow, if, of course, you plan on working here for a while. And what are these rules?
There aren't many, and they're simple. You follow them and you'll figure the rest out yourself. What you, me, and the other drivers are hauling, nobody knows for sure. But everyone knows what happens to those who stick their nose where it doesn't belong. They get fired, and then they disappear. So if you don't want to vanish too, just sit in your cab and look at your phone while they're loading and unloading you. While you're driving, it's better not to stop the truck. And in general, don't get out. It's a sketchy business, Seryog. I stopped once to take a leak. I opened the door and realized I'd rather hold it, or just go right in the cab. What happened?
You know, I decided not to check. I just heard a lot of rustling coming from the weeds, getting closer to me, and I jumped back into the cab. So don't stop. And if you do have to stop, don't you dare step out of the cab. Also remember, no matter what you hear, no matter who you see, don't pick anyone up along the way. Oh, and about the route. Our route always goes through forests and fields. We don't go into cities or towns. So remember, no stores and no "I'll take a different road." It's a risky business. The boss sometimes tells us that those who stray from the path get lost, and usually don't come back. Stop, Kolyuk, wait. Are you kidding me? Is this how you guys haze the new guys? I'm already getting goosebumps from your creepy stories. Don't go there, don't look here. So you still haven't figured out who you're working for?
Well, I have my guesses.
Exactly, Seryoza. That's exactly it. Just don't say anything out loud, or better yet, look at this. Kolka held out his right hand. Look at my pinky. I shone my phone's light and saw that where the pad of his finger should have been, there was nothing. It looked like it had been sliced off. And what, you chopped off a piece of your finger somewhere? Yeah, right, chopped it off. The truck ate it. Kolyuk, that's not funny. Well, suit yourself, but look, I told you everything as it is. The rest is up to you. Time flies when you're talking. I didn't even have time to blink and we had arrived. What's next?
What's next? We'll drive in, get in line for unloading, and that's it. We'll drive the trucks off the property, leave them, and go home. It's literally 3 kilometers through the woods, and we'll come out right at the bus stop. The buses will start running by then. Don't worry about walking through the forest. There's a normal lit path, so it's not scary. And you, I take it you haul something too? Yep, just in a different direction. So if you didn't remember something, ask. I'll repeat it. Although, to be honest, you have one of the shortest routes. And by the way, don't forget, what I told you is true. I was walking to work, thinking it all over. What is this nonsense? What are we hauling that's so secret you can't even look at it? But whatever. Tonight, as soon as I leave the base, I'm definitely going to find out what it is.
I came in, got loaded, and after driving about 5 kilometers from the warehouse, I stopped the truck and got out. All right, now I'll find out what's in here, I thought. People. I was hauling people. They were lying on top of each other and were barely alive. And strange. They were moaning, writhing, whining, and reaching their hands out to me, begging me to help them. That's it. The end of the line. I'm calling the police. This is not normal. I unlocked my smartphone and was about to dial the number. Just then, my boss called me. I answered the phone. Sergey, you were told that what you are hauling is none of your business. I'm not going to haul people to their slaughter, or wherever you're sending them. You know, Sergey, I thought we would work well together. But since you've seen everything, let me tell you something. You're not hauling people. You're hauling their souls.
What kind of nonsense is this? These are real people. I can see them.
Go ahead and touch them. I tried to touch the body of the person closest to me, but my hand passed right through him. You see, these are already the deceased, and you are transporting them to the other side. But because you stopped and saw the cargo, you will now drive forever, and you're unlikely to ever arrive anywhere. Why is that? Because you broke the contract. I wish you all the best, and I'll give you one last piece of advice. You will live for exactly as long as you stay in the truck. What a moron, I said out loud, and called the police. Turn on your headlights, we can't see you, said the voice on the phone. They're on. I'm on a dirt road. Sir, there is no dirt road here. It's all forest. What do you mean there's no road? Hold on, I'll honk. We can't hear anything. Can you drive to the nearest road? We'll definitely find you there. I'm not sure. I'll try. I started the truck, opened the navigator, and drove along the proposed route. The dot on the navigator that showed my location, it didn't move, not an inch. I drove for 2 hours, but the navigator stubbornly showed that I was standing still. Damn it, what do I do? What now? But my thoughts were interrupted by a sharp drop-off in the road. Just great. I got out of the cab to see what was wrong with the road ahead. I have to turn around. I can't get through here, I thought, and tried to open the door. But it was locked. I couldn't open it, by any means available to me. Even the windows, which I tried to break with a rock, wouldn't give.
Wolves started howling to my left. I climbed onto the roof. As soon as I got up there, a pack ran out from all sides. You will live for exactly as long as you can stay in the cab. The last piece of advice came to mind. Well, I guess I'll sit here for as long as I can, and then, whatever happens, happens. I was tired. My eyes were drooping. I just wanted to sleep. No, to wash up, eat, and sleep. For 12 hours, preferably. And then, the rest could wait. I moved through the night, slicing it with the headlights of my truck. The darkness retreated, as if it were alive, before the bright artificial light.
Behind me, 40 tons of cargo, some kind of construction mix that was supposed to be delivered yesterday. But I just couldn't make it, no matter how hard I tried, even though I had been driving for almost a day without stopping. When you work, live, and breathe the road, you understand that trying to plan anything on it is a waste of time. At first, it doesn't seem strange or mystical, and you don't really believe in superstitions. But over time, I'm ready to swear that the road is alive, and can even punish you if it sees fit. I've had very short runs, where the job was a piece of cake, but sometimes they took place in such a frenzied atmosphere of madness and nervousness that you just wanted to give up. They'll load you up, you'll start driving, and then it turns out they didn't load all the documents or the cargo and you have to go back, or you just get a flat tire and have to fix it.
And then there were super long hauls where you were practically sleeping at the wheel and everything went as it should. Well, as it should, considering people's incompetence. In my memory, there have only been a few times when I arrived on time and they immediately started loading or unloading me, and the documents were ready, and there were no problems at all. That's a fantasy. Usually, you arrive, go to drop off the documents, and they tell you, wait. And that wait, it can stretch on for hours, even though everyone was screaming that the goods were urgent and you drove all night without sleep. For the last 7 years or so, I've tried not to sleep in the truck at all. I stop at roadside hotels, motels. I'd even agree to sleep in a crooked shack built for 1.5 people, bed bugs and all, just to not spend the night in the cab of a truck.
"Damn it," I whispered quietly, rubbing my sleepy eyes, my eyelids feeling like lead. Sleeping in the cab, it's a scary business. Although at first I didn't mind it and even felt a certain romanticism about it, which quickly faded after about a week of such nights. There were objective reasons for this. A truck is a machine, not a place to sleep, and of course everything in it is made first and foremost for driving, and they thought about you last. So it's uncomfortable to sleep. It's very cold in the winter and stuffy in the summer. If it's raining, you hear every single drop, and if branches are scraping the tarp, you think the devil himself is scratching and wants to drag your ass straight to the other side.
That's one reason. Another, it's just inconvenient. Everything is tiny, there's no space, you can't turn around, you can't wash dishes properly, and you have to throw trash out the window. Ugh, no, I grimaced. I now understand why Sprinter van drivers are as mean as dogs. Sleeping in one of those must be the pinnacle of bliss and pleasure. And the other reason, and perhaps the most important one, I wanted to live. For some reason, all the horror that happened to me, it always occurred right after I stopped. Here's one example. I had just started my career as a driver, and I had no experience at all. So to avoid spending money on hotels, I decided to pull into a dark, deserted rest stop off the highway, where I planned to spend the night. Of course, the place was littered with trash, wrappers, bottles, and so on. I was completely alone there, but at the time, that didn't really scare me. I ate in the cab, listening to the radio, then got my stuff out of the truck to have a smoke and stretch my legs. I climb out of the cab. Night has just fallen. It's almost completely dark, and I'm standing there, smoking and looking out from the rest stop at the highway. All you can hear is the sound of the occasional car flying by on the highway. Otherwise, it's silent. And then, right at the edge of my vision, I see someone walk by. Someone came out onto the shoulder, crossed the road, and disappeared on the other side. Who knows, I thought back then, brushing it off. Maybe it's some local guy, going home. Local or not, I got pretty scared and decided for myself that I would be sleeping with a tire iron in my arms tonight. It just felt safer that way. With these thoughts, I climbed into the cab and immediately locked the doors. And just in time, the door handle on the passenger side jiggled, and I saw a face. Yes, exactly that. If I were a child, I would have said it was a pirate. But since I wasn't, I saw a grimy, crooked-toothed, wild-looking man. "Hey, pal, got a cigarette?" "What?" I asked, startled. "A cigarette?" "Oh, no, I don't." "What do you mean you don't? There's a pack right there. If you need something, you should have your own. And if you don't, you're an ass. Got it?" He said menacingly and disappeared from view. Crazy bastard, I thought. Now he's going to piss on my truck because I didn't give him a smoke. To hell with all of them, wondering how this nut job had approached the truck completely unnoticed. And really, I should have floored it, because it was a sketchy situation. The psycho pulled on the handle first. Maybe he had a knife and would have stabbed me. But at that moment, I was just in shock and didn't even flinch to drive away. And I fell asleep right there in the driver's seat. I woke up, feeling like a captain, and my ship was rocking on the waves. But I'm a driver, and trucks don't rock on waves. However, that didn't stop mine from doing just that right now. The cab was shaking back and forth, and there was a commotion in the trailer with the cargo behind me. I'm being robbed, I thought. I wanted to get out, but I came to my senses in time. They'd kill me. Apparently, the unloading process hadn't really started yet, and someone knocked on my door again, but with a different voice. "Hey man, they're stealing your tires," he yelled, pounding on the door for me to open it. But instead, I started the truck and, ignoring everything, began to turn around and drive back onto the highway. In my headlights, I saw the scene. A Gazelle van, 4 men, and among them, that pirate. They stood there, glaring at me, but there was no chase or anything, and I drove away from there peacefully. Later, I told this story to my colleagues, if you can call people who turn a steering wheel the same way you do that. They told me that I was actually incredibly lucky because usually they just smash the window, put a knife to your throat, or maybe across your throat, and then calmly unload everything. Or else it's a knife to the throat, zip ties on your wrists, and they drive you blindfolded far away and just dump you. It's rare for them to rob you like that. Either those guys just didn't want to shed blood and were only interested in material goods, or they were just inexperienced, and maybe it was their first attempt, which is also unlikely. But generally, as I was told, they probably wouldn't have bothered or even touched you. At most, they would have kicked you around a bit and left you on the side of the road, and that's all, if you had opened the door. Then they told me a couple more stories about how trucks get robbed, and that stopping alone in a dark pull-off is bad form, and stopping with someone else is even more dangerous. It's happened before that you'll pull in, and there are guys just like you, big-bellied, standing around relaxing, slippers, plaid shirt, cigarette, the whole deal. If you're driving, you'll go up to them, because you don't want to sit in your cab alone like an owl, and a casual chat will start. They'll tell you a good story, give you some homemade moonshine, and treat you to a cutlet from their wife that she packed for the road. And after 2 glasses, you don't remember a thing. You'll wake up in the cab of your truck. No money. Everything valuable you had has been taken. The cargo's been checked. If you had any appliances like TVs or washing machines, part of them are already long gone. And the trailer is wide open for anyone to take whatever they want. What about the road brotherhood? What about helping each other out? I asked back then. The guys just laughed, saying that stuff's been dead for years. No help, no brotherhood. Brothers only show up when they need some diesel. Otherwise, forget it. And I had to learn that for myself, the hard way. I used to think I was one hell of a cool guy, tough as a coffin nail. I'd driven everywhere, seen and knew it all. Well, that's just what I thought anyway. The reality was different. I was working for this one guy, and a situation came up where I got stuck on the shoulder in the middle of winter. I later found out it was because of bad fuel, but at that moment, I had no idea what to do. It was brutally cold, minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit outside. The engine wouldn't run, just went chug, chug, and threatened to die any second. You're far from any town, far from any diner. I'm yelling over the CB radio, "Guys, I'm dying out here. Can anyone help?" But nobody gave a damn. "Sorry bro, in a hurry, can't help. In a tight spot myself, man. You selling any diesel?" "Oh, we're too far, otherwise we'd totally help, but it's a long detour." Yeah, that's exactly how the brothers started to flake off. I'm sitting there, no idea what to do, and the engine is dying. I realize I'm going to have to burn something just to sit here and not freeze to death. It's just as much of an icebox inside the cab as it is outside, so it makes no difference where I sit. I got out of the cab, walked around the truck,
kicked the tires, and then a small miracle happened. A colleague from work pulled up in front of me. A dude in a worn-out jacket got out, walked over and quickly laid out the whole situation for me. I had no clue what was what. "Where'd you get your diesel?" "I didn't. The owner of the truck filled it up at the depot." "Got it. Let's do this." He drained a few buckets of good diesel for me, and the engine started running normally right away. But the price was merciless for the advice and the diesel he provided. Even though I lost money that day, I learned the most valuable lesson. Nobody gives a damn about you except yourself.
The world isn't without good people, but you should only ever rely on yourself. I chuckle now, remembering how I froze back then, but because of that bitter experience, I learned my lesson, and now I understand. But all that is just the daily grind, typical trucker stories, things that can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. But there was something else, something you can't get out of with any amount of cargo or money, where no connections, no one at all, can help you. And it happened to me once. I was moving down the highway at night, or rather, creeping through fog. The road was narrow, a real piece of crap, and the fog was like a solid wall. You couldn't see a thing. I'm driving, singing along to the radio, and I hear someone jump on top of the trailer. In a panic, I rolled up the windows and started getting nervous. A moment later, some woman jumps onto the running board on my side and says, "Give me a lift to Blameitonjorge." I look at her and it's a corpse, a dead body. A piece of her head is missing. She's all blue, but she's smiling like nothing's wrong. I started whimpering quietly, keeping my eyes on the road. I hear someone jump off the roof and run away. A few minutes later, the fog clears up significantly, but the woman is still standing on the running board, silently yanking on the door handle from time to time. I was so scared I just stared straight ahead at the road, and suddenly, I saw it. I see a strange scene moving in front of me. A woman and demons on a burning cart, jumping and screaming songs, while exhausted-looking men pull the cart. I didn't even breathe as I drove past. One of the demons jumped onto the passenger side running board, clinked a bottle, and cheerfully invited me to join them. All I did was let out a low groan and grip the steering wheel tight. Nothing else like that happened that day, but the memory of it jolted me better than any energy drink. From that day on, I hated the fog. Whenever it fell, I'd start the truck and drive to wherever it wasn't. Then one day, the thing I feared most after those demons and dead bodies happened, I broke down, at night, in the middle of a road where if a car passes once every 4 hours, it's considered busy. There was no fog. The night was summery, warm and dark. The truck started jerking and the engine ran in ragged bursts, then died 10 minutes later. The fuel indicator was on empty. I realized either the drain plug had come out of the tank or I'd punctured the tank. Both were pretty fantastical, but I could solve the problem. I had nothing to patch a hole with, but I did have something to pour into the tank. I always carry good diesel in canisters now, just in case. I'm sitting in the cab, feeling a sick sense of dread, almost to the point of vomiting. I don't want to get out, like I'm going on stage knowing someone's waiting for me. I don't even think it, I just know that someone is hiding in the darkness of this backwoods place. Well, sitting in the cab like an idiot is stupid. I have to solve the problem. And waiting until dawn, that's a pretty bad idea. Whoever needs you will get you anyway. This is a cab, not a bunker. All right. I put on my headlamp, grab my toolbox. I open the door and head towards the tank. I get closer, look it over. Doesn't seem to be a puncture. I lie down under it, look, and the drain plug from the bottom is gone. That means all my fuel leaked out all over the road. I crawl out from under the truck, shine my light to the left and see a person is walking towards me, and they're already close. Alone, in the dark, in the middle of the night by the road. What is he doing? I look the other way and there are two more, and they're close too. They're clearly not here to help, I thought, and I yell, "Stop right there, you freaks. What do you want?" They stopped and just stared at me silently. "What do you want?" No answer, but they took a couple more steps. I look, and they seem like ordinary people, dressed normally, but something's off about them, like they're missing something. A moment later, I realize what it is. Their eyes, glassy, like a corpse's. There's nothing in their eyes, even though their faces are a gamma of emotions. The three of them were approaching, and I was holding a hammer. I knew they were going to rush me, but I didn't know why. When the first one got close, I hit him in the head. I cracked his skull. Blood sprayed everywhere. Two of them jumped on my back, and I felt teeth sink into the nape of my neck. Between my shoulder blades, human teeth were snapping like a predator's, tearing at my flesh with a furious clicking sound, and the people, they hissed like snakes. I screamed, trying to turn over, to hit the bastards. I even managed to hit one of them. I was squealing like a pig being led to slaughter. I fought with everything I had, feeling their teeth scraping my right shoulder blade. I managed to turn over. I knew I was going to die, but these Tavari, they had to die too. By some miracle, I just managed to get to my feet, pushing them off and started hammering one of them on the back, but the second one lunged at me, knocked me down and started smashing my face against the asphalt. I heard my skull crack. I felt that long, horrible, dull snap when it burst and blood from my head started to decorate the asphalt. He was beating me brutally, hammering me down, and I wasn't screaming anymore. I was dying. I was lying under the tank and screaming. I came to, staring at the drain plug in the tank. It hadn't disappeared. I was just lying there, under the truck, and screaming. What? What was that? I lay there, not understanding anything at all. I felt my head, checked myself over, but I was completely unharmed. I was lying under the truck and nothing was happening at all, and the plug was in place. Okay, now I'm going to get up very, very quietly and get the hell out of here while I'm still sane. And that's what I did. I drove away from there, never understanding what had happened. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I dreamed it. Maybe I was temporarily in another reality. But in any case, I tried not to think about it. Yeah, since then, I always try to think about where I'm going to sleep as soon as evening approaches. By 10 p.m., I absolutely have to be at some motel, preferably one with parking and cameras. But alas, I can't always find places like that. So right now I have to stop where I can, since this is the only place for many miles around. I arrived, got out of the truck. The clock showed 9:20 p.m. An inconvenient time for sure, really inconvenient. I could have used another couple of hours on the road, but I refused to sleep anywhere but a motel. I thought to myself and set the truck's alarm. It was your standard cafe, motel, diner combo, the kind there are hundreds, if not thousands of, across this vast country, with the symbolic name Love. The cheesy red letters on the white building looked completely out of place, but I was here to eat and sleep, and I couldn't care less about the rest. I went inside, and at the reception desk sat a portly woman. As I later guessed, she was the owner of the whole establishment, because her name tag said Lyubov, love. Hello, a room for the night. Hello, 1,500. How much? 1,500. So expensive, I muttered, handing over the money. Is there anywhere to eat? Yes, everything's on the first floor. Showers, diner, it's all there, she said, waving her hand towards a hallway on the left. The stairs to the second floor are over there, just rooms up there. Here's your key. She handed me a key with the number 21. I went upstairs, dropped my stuff, and understood why a night here cost so much. Everything was done pleasantly and well. The room was clean, tidy, TV, music, the works, everything you need to rest. After a shower, I noted the tidiness and cleanliness, and the diner was beyond all praise. Besides me, there were 6 other people eating. The diner itself was small, but it was the most well-kept and tidy one I had ever seen. The portions there were truly king-sized. I ate, I drank, I paid. It was expensive, but worth it. And then I shuffled off to bed. That's all I wanted. And tomorrow morning,
Wake up around 4 a.m., wash up, and as they say, get to work. I got up, locked the door to my room, and lay down to sleep, almost instantly, drifting off. I woke up to someone knocking on my door. Annoyed, I got up, walked over to it, and asked, "Who is it?" "It's the administrator. Open up, please."
What's wrong? Please, open the door. What is that sound, I thought, wishing there was a peephole in the door. I can't. I'm not dressed. Open up. What haven't I seen before? Said Lyubov, and the sound of hooves repeated again. He's not opening, a quiet voice whispered from behind the door. Open it with your own, a third voice said, and I heard a key being inserted into the lock and turning. I backed into the far corner of the room and waited to see what I would see. The door opened, not living up to my expectations. I saw nothing. The light was off in the hallway, and I hadn't thought to turn it on in the room. "We need to inspect the room," a voice said in the darkness. "Yes, we'll just take a look," said someone, clopping with hooves as they entered. I couldn't see them. It was absolutely dark. Not a single drop of light came from the street. The sky had been overcast all day. The clopping got closer and closer. What do you want? Get away from me! I shrieked in a desperate impulse, lunged and jumped through the window that was behind me. I cut my stomach, my arms, my legs, and the demons, or whatever they were, rushed at me, grabbed me by the legs and pulled me back inside. I screamed, I shrieked, my stomach hurt. Oh God, I saw yellow fat and my own intestines on my hands. Someone was slurping them up in the dark, and some clean paw reached in and started rummaging through my guts. I screamed, I fought, I threatened them, but they tore my throat out with their teeth and blood gurgled down my collar. I came to, lying under the truck and staring at the tank cap. Damn it all to hell, I screamed, understanding perfectly well that this would never end now. Autumn. Rain tapped on the cab roof, on the windshield. The engine hummed peacefully, whispering its lullaby. The soft yellow light of the headlights fell on the road, and the absolute pitch-black darkness all around. It created a certain cozy atmosphere. You're sitting here, in the warmth, drinking coffee with a croissant and jam, while outside there's anything. Cold, damp, darkness, and most likely, death. This was a very unpleasant route, an unpleasant company, and just generally everything here was bad, except for the people. Of course, I would have liked to get a job somewhere else, but alas, without experience, they wouldn't risk sending me out on a run alone. So they paired me with a seasoned road wolf who had seen it all. His name was Telegov, Sergei Vasilyevich, a 47-year-old guy with a cunning look, short, round, with a distinctive feature. He loved to wear leather caps. He also had a persistent scent of cologne and cigarettes about him. Of course, I didn't call him that. To me, he was Seryoga. He asked me to call him that himself. Our route was very long and very difficult, or as Seryoga put it, we're going where even the wolves don't shit. This was because the company was small, had a questionable reputation in the job market, and was willing to take on jobs that a self-respecting firm wouldn't even look at. If you can earn even a penny there, believe me, we're going. That's how Seryoga commented on their worldview. He also advised me to get out of there as soon as I'd worked my year, but he said that in this 1 year I would learn to do everything. The trucks here were beaten to hell and rotting, repaired with blue electrical tape. If they used black tape, they'd stop working altogether. And the technical support here also left much to be desired. To my witty question, as I thought, "Why do you work here if everything's so bad?" he answered just as honestly, "Because they don't pay me like they pay everyone else." As I understood it, Seryoga was an honest guy, which probably pissed a lot of people off. But when we were at the depot, I realized that his words were listened to, or rather, not even questioned. In short, this was the kind of company that truckers used to scare each other at night in the glow of their headlights. We had already loaded up at 3 different places and were slowly driving from Moscow to Stavropol. After that, we were supposed to go to Samara. I was drinking coffee, looking at the road, and feeling a little strange for a number of reasons. We weren't driving on the main highway like normal people, but through some back roads, if you can call them that.
And all because Seryoga had made a side trip to some village and given something to some guy. So why didn't we get on the highway? It'll take longer, believe me. Better this way. Plus, I had to stop and take care of something you saw. I had to pull off for that. And the road here is good, I know it. Been here more than once. We'll get there just fine. No adventures. At least for the next 250 miles, probably. But we're still going to stick to these kinds of roads. I don't know. It seems easier on the highway. Easier, but more expensive and, strangely enough, longer. The highway, it's just an illusion of safety. Why? There are cameras and people there. So what about the people? Few will stop to help. Forget about it. You've been watching too many TV shows about truckers and think it's all like that. Oh no, not even close. Out here, you're on your own. Nobody gives a damn about your problems, and everyone's racing like their heads are cut off. So forget about the beauty of the road. On the road, there's only money and blood. All the robberies, the stick-ups, you think they happen out here on these forest roads? No, it's all on the highway. On the highway, there are people and money, which means there are also those interested in what's in their pockets. You can stop to eat, wash up, sleep, and in the morning, discover that your trailer's been emptied. You're lucky if they only unloaded you. They might just steal the whole rig and unload it somewhere else. And at the motel parking lot, as always, the camera isn't working. You know why it's not working, kid? Because the owner of that motel, he's in on it. It's good if you're not responsible for the goods, or if it's insured and all, or if it's stipulated in your contract. But that's like 0.2% of cases out of 99.8%. If the goods get swiped, all the responsibility is on you. Yeah, get used to it. You're responsible for everything. For the truck, how you drive, how the cargo is secured, for being late. You'll be blamed for everything at once. Have you ever had your cargo stolen? They tried twice, but that's a thing of the past. It was a long time ago and almost didn't happen. And by the way, they tried to pull it not just anywhere, but on the way out of a big city. Yeah, that's why you're more likely to get killed on the highway, and everyone will just drive past. Why would they want trouble? Why would they get involved and help you? But here, look at the road. What do you see? Well, rain, the road, trees on the left and right. No, that's not what you see. You see peace and quiet. In the last hour, maybe 4 cars have passed, just as slowly and calmly. Nobody's waiting for you here. No races, no idiots who want to teach you a lesson about how to drive. You just drive, that's it. The main thing is not to fall asleep, but I don't feel like sleeping. So we can keep moving for now. Seryoga, how many years have you been working as a driver? In general or here at this company? Well, in general. Damn, I couldn't even say. Since I was 14, probably. Oh, come on, you're pulling my leg. Seriously, I used to go with my dad. He had a mobile shop. We'd drive around villages delivering flour, pasta. I helped, of course. Sometimes I even got behind the wheel myself. Back then, you could go for ages without seeing another car. If a village had 3 to 5 cars, you were considered respected and honored. Times were tough. It wasn't just cars, you couldn't even buy tires. And if you could, you had to find the money and the right people. My dad always had a business sense, though he was kinda stingy. So I went with him, helped with money, earned for the family. And I really did get behind the wheel. There weren't so many cars or cameras and all that. I had a stricter supervisor, my dad, and if I crashed the truck, the family wouldn't eat. He told me that once and put me behind the wheel. Usually I'd have to beg, and they wouldn't let me. But this time they did, and I wasn't happy about it. But then they started letting me drive more often, all based on trust, as they say. Then I finished school, did my compulsory military service, and got behind the wheel myself, started running the mobile shop. But not for long. That business was already dying then. But the era of truckers, yeah, that was a golden time, but scary. I had guys jump on my running board, had tough guys at gas stations asking me questions. You name it, it happened. I even paid a couple of times, just to be left alone. You paid? Of course. It was a wild time. You could say it was at its peak. Money was easy to make, but lives were lost just as easily. There was one main road, and one crew worked it, and the animals on it were terrifying. Those who didn't pay couldn't believe their luck if they got through safely, and those who weren't lucky, well, they didn't tell anyone about it. They dealt with people harshly, took the truck, the cargo, and that's it. You go rest in the woods. So everyone said it was easier to pay than to live in fear, and it wasn't cheap to pay. I remember giving them a third of my earnings. I paid and drove through without any trouble. You see these tough-looking guys in their cool cars looking at you, and you drive by knowing they won't touch you. Of course, then they crack down on them, and then on us. There used to be money, and now, well, there's still money, but not like it was before. So what was it like before? You live in the cab for a year, you get out, and you buy an apartment in some regional capital. Just walk in, put the cash on the table, and it's done. In 1 year? Yeah, 1 year. But then again, for that year, you ate, slept, and worked in this damn cab. Have you ever tried to quit this job? Tried more than once. I have apartments, cars, everything seems fine. I thought, why should I keep running around? I'll find a woman, start a family. I'll get a job as a handyman and live like everyone else. But no, it's empty. The road calls. It calls. Sometimes you're sitting in the cab, howling with insane rage or frustration, angry, sleepy, feeling like crap. Or you're changing a tire in the freezing cold, cursing everything and thinking, never again.
But you sit at home for a bit and you hear it. The road is calling. And besides, I don't know how to do anything else. My whole life has been on the road, and I'll die on it. Don't say that, you'll jinx it. What are you scared of? You think that's a bad thing? Well, it's strange. You're talking about breaking down, about death. You shouldn't be afraid of it. It's the truth. Believe me, in 10 years I'll still be here behind the wheel, and even in 20, if I live that long and can still drive. Of course, I'm not immortal. Something will go wrong and I'll be gone. That's life, and it's the scariest and harshest teacher. In my life, I've learned only one lesson well. Never say never. How many times have I sworn and vowed that I wouldn't go, wouldn't haul something, would quit, or would never get in a cab again? I swore it, and here I am, still in the same place.
Life can twist things so much that if you were dead sure of your convictions yesterday, tomorrow you'll be driving right over them yourself. And if someone reminds you, you'll just bullshit them. Words on the road are a scary thing, especially words in a tough moment. What do you mean? This, but keep in mind the story isn't mine, but I'll tell it as if it were. I used to know this sailor of the asphalt seas. Night, winter, the Urals, a serious frost, early 2000s. You're alone on the road and your truck dies. First the RPMs drop slowly, and then the engine is barely breathing. Your diesel is freezing in the tank. This is death. Wolves are howling nearby. They're hungry too, and your headlights attracted them. And this is the situation one guy, let's call him Leoka, found himself in. Leoka is sitting in his cab, trying to figure out what to do, and outside a terrible blizzard is starting. The cab is cooling down fast. There's no one on the road, and it's unlikely anyone will come. And your choice is small. Burn the truck with the cargo and hope the wolves don't eat you, and they're already getting closer. The howling has gotten much louder. Or try to start the truck somehow. But how are you going to start it when your own snot is starting to freeze? What should I do? I whisper, and I can already barely see my breath. The cab cooled down in literally 10 minutes. I'm getting dressed inside the cab, wrapping myself in everything I have. I try to reach someone on the CB radio, on the phone. It's all useless. No signal. No one will help me before morning, and I'd like to live until morning. The howling outside the window is terrifying, but there's nothing to be done. Not really understanding why, I open the door, thinking I'll at least drag a tire outside. I'll burn that first, and then we'll see.
I open the door, and there they are, barely 60 feet away, growling and howling. I can't see them, but I hear them. They'll tear me to pieces. I can't get out. The blizzard is terrible. You can't see 3 feet in front of you, so I can't get out. It's either death from the cold or death from fangs. I froze. I'm sitting there thinking about how I can burn something without burning myself or suffocating, and without setting the cab on fire. I cracked the passenger window just a tiny bit, and my own just a sliver to get a little airflow. I had a frying pan, and I'd toss in scraps of paper a little at a time and burn them just to get some semblance of heat, but what kind of heat can you get from that? After 20 minutes in that bone-chilling cold, my windows started frosting over, and I realized this is death. I'm screaming into the radio again, calling every number I have. A pack of wolves is circling the cab as if they were waiting, as if they knew. I understand with my mind that I'll freeze to death, that I won't open the doors for them. So what's there to do? I smoked another cigarette, tried to start the engine. The truck was dead, totally dead. It needed to be thawed out. It wasn't just that it wouldn't start. It had completely stopped responding to the key. Even the lights grew dim as the wiring froze. So there I sit, burning a little magazine in the frying pan. I had a lot of them, car magazines, phone magazines, but paper doesn't give off much heat, and the fear of staying alive was somehow worse. I could suffocate from the smoke, or the whole cab could catch fire. I tried tossing in the wooden beaded seat cover, the kind that works like a massager. Sure, it burned, and I won't deny it burned well. It was even warm, but the stench that came off it was disgusting, and the soot was thick and black. I realized that wasn't going to work. After another 20 minutes, it wasn't funny anymore. I started feeding the magazines into the fire more actively, but what was the point? The cab had frozen through. It had become a refrigerator itself. A truck cab isn't a house, and those wolves out there, they were already skinning me with their eyes. So I'm sitting there, smoking, burning stuff, listening to the wolves in the blizzard singing me a funeral song. Then my hearing caught something strange, like a woman screaming. Or maybe it was just the wind twisting the sound in a weird way. I so badly didn't want to die. I didn't want it so much that I started praying, fiercely, saying things to my truck that you only say when you're on the brink of death. I started whispering, "Give me a chance. Just give me a chance. Get me out of here. I'm dying. I'll never sell you. I'll do anything. Just let me get out of this cursed place. Don't let me perish in the cold." Of course, the actual words were much stronger, but that was the gist of it. Hoping for nothing, I put the key in, turned it, and the truck started. Just like that. A normal, steady start. I couldn't believe it myself. Little by little, without rushing, I started to drive. Well, I say drive, but I was crawling. I was so afraid it would stall. But I was willing to risk moving forward because standing still was even more dangerous. Hell, even the tires were getting stiff from the cold. I got out of there in a fog. I don't remember how, but I was alive. Alive. And I thank my truck. I thank everything. So, what happened next? I asked. Sergey winked at me. Next, our buddy Lyoka died, and this is how it happened. He told this amazing story to everyone, to anyone who would listen, for free, to the masses. For a time, just for a time, the truck never let him down again. And at first, he took care of it, serviced it, dusted it off, and asked no questions. So how did it happen? The truck served him faithfully for another 5 years. Then he decided to sell it. And here's where it gets mystical. He wanted to sell it after buying a new one. His truck was good, of course, never gave him trouble, but it was tired. It had so many miles on it, it was time to let it rest. It was old, didn't have any modern comforts. He'd had his eye on a foreign model, powerful, beautiful, and more comfortable and well-designed. So, the day of the purchase arrives. Lyoka has this huge grin on his face. The family's happy, his old lady, even the dog is grinning as if it just got a new semi. They drive the new truck home, park it next to the old one, and start to celebrate. He called his friends, his neighbors, This isn't some passenger car after all. A semi costs a pretty penny, and a magnificent one like this has a price so high it was awkward to even say it out loud. As is tradition, they celebrated the deal. Leoka got drunk and went to sleep. The next morning, death came knocking. They found Leoka in his old truck, frozen solid, covered in ice, as if a terrible blizzard had raged inside, as if he were in the far north. He died holding the steering wheel. They found him in the morning and had trouble prying him away from the truck. The old-timers said the truck got jealous, punished him for his words. The very thing it saved him from was the thing that killed him. It took him back to the place it once rescued him from. But that's not true, is it? I asked, getting a little nervous.
Why isn't it true? It's all true. The road is another world. Everyone sees it, but few understand it. When you're out on the road throwing around curses, prayers, and promises, you gotta be careful. The road remembers. It remembers everything. And as soon as you go back on your words, it won't forget to remind you of them. And you know, there's something sacred about it. Sometimes you're driving and the truck just won't go. You tell it, "Come on, don't fail me now. It's just a few miles, then we can both rest." And you know, this machine, it doesn't have a soul, but I'm sure it hears you. It's like you can feel it start to run smoother. You can feel it trying its best, and you root for it, praise it, and you keep going. That understanding, it comes with age. Right now, it probably sounds like nonsense to you, the ravings of a madman, but it's not. Believe me, over time, after you've worked on the road for a long time, you start to understand that the machine is alive in its own way. You stop cussing it out. You praise it. You treat it not like a piece of iron, but like a living organism. Look at mine. It's old, yeah, but everything's serviced, everything's tuned just how I like it. And I'm more confident in this truck than in any foreign model, even a new one. And I'll add one more thing. Sometimes it's not just us choosing the truck, but the truck choosing its driver. How's that? I've heard it from private owners who drive their own rigs. His truck runs like a dream, nothing breaks, the steering is responsive. In short, it just works. But when he sells it or buys one from someone else, the truck acts like it's possessed. It breaks down, sits in the parking lot, one thing after another. They say it's resisting. It doesn't recognize the new owner. On paper, everything might be fine, but a truck is a truck. There's a reason people try not to buy vehicles that someone died in. It's not about the body in the cab. It's that the truck might kill more than one driver. You've probably heard about cursed cars and motorcycles, where drivers die but the vehicle is untouched. Yeah, with bikers they call them crosses. It means the machine is showing its character, that it misses its former owner, and the real owner is the one who drove it the longest and the earliest. That's the true owner. We drove in silence for a while after that. I looked at the road. The landscape outside the window hadn't changed much, but the rain had gotten heavier, and a light fog had rolled in. We slowed down even more, moving at a crawl. We barely saw any other cars. Has anything mystical like that ever happened to you? Yeah, a few times, but one was the most vivid. Tell me.
All right, listen up, kid. This was a long time ago, back when I used to drive around the villages in a mobile grocery store, and I got cursed. Yeah, don't look at me like that. I was cursed because of my work, probably. I used to drive to these little villages selling goods, and people bought stuff, of course, but the earnings were modest. The wholesalers started getting greedy and hiking up the prices. And what could I do? It's a mobile shop, basically a store with the bare minimum. Bread in sacks, crackers. People even bought those. In some places it was essential, like air. But then for the last 2 months, you know, they raised the price on this, raised the price on that, and my already small income just melted away. Believe me, times were tough back then. It wasn't even about the income. It was about having a job at all, having any money. Hard times for everyone.
And you know, one thing piled on another. Prices went up, people didn't buy, but you've already bought the goods, and now they're starting to spoil. It all just built up.
Until one day I got really mad when I heard that besides me, someone else was driving to the same villages on a different day, and his selection was bigger and tastier, and of course he was practically giving it away. My greed and resentment just ate me up. I blew the whole thing off for a week. I thought, am I their babysitter? This second guy showed up, let him deal with it. I sat around for a while, let off some steam, and then thought, to hell with it, I'll go for a drive.
It was a Thursday. I stock up on goods, drive out to sell, and I can't believe my luck. They're not just buying, they're scooping it up with shovels, nearly dragging me out of the truck. I ask what's going on, where's the other guy? And everyone's yelling at me, asking why I stopped coming. The villagers say the other guy was unreliable. Sometimes he'd show up, sometimes not. And now it seems he's given up on the business. I was overjoyed and things started rolling for me. One village, then another, the goods are selling out. This went on for several days straight. I was happy, everything was selling, I was buying more, the money was coming in, I started daydreaming. You know how it is. So, one Saturday I arrive in this remote village. It wasn't the farthest, but it was the last one you could reach by car. I get there, I'm selling, things are going okay. People had come from other smaller villages. Some didn't have money, so I'd trade food for something else. And this one old woman comes up to me and says, I'm starving, got no money, got nothing. Give me some food or I'll die of hunger. I look at her and she has this bulldog-like face, kind of fair-skinned, but with this unreal malice in her eyes. I think, if I give her something now, she'll make a habit of asking. If I don't, she'll start screaming. I figured I wouldn't go broke from giving her a few items, so I gathered some simple food for her. Matches, a bit of sugar, salt, pepper, a couple of loaves of bread, some cheap canned goods, and some candy. I get that she has nothing to eat, but times are tough. Nobody has anything to eat.
But everyone's getting by somehow. The locals should help her out. There should be some kind of community support. They live in a village, after all. I hand her the simple package and she looks at me and says, "That's not enough. It's like you're tearing it from your heart." "I am," I replied. "Am I supposed to feed you, old woman? Why don't the locals help you if things are so bad?" The old hag didn't answer, but her face contorted with such rage I thought she was having a stroke. As she was leaving, she said something loud, but in a way that I couldn't understand a word. I heard her speaking, but I couldn't comprehend it. Afterwards, some guy came up to me and said, "You just warmed a snake, and a snake will give you nothing but venom. You shouldn't have given her that piece of bread. We don't help her. She's worn us all out. Let the cursed witch just die already." I didn't say anything and didn't understand about the hag then, but I understood later, much later. I got this incredible rush of motivation. I started hauling things, bringing stuff from the city at the villagers' request, buying things, delivering things, working like a courier and a shop all in one. And everything was going so well, it was wonderful. And at some point, I met the devil on my path, only I didn't know it was him. It's broad daylight, and this old man is walking along the side of the road towards the village where that old woman cursed me. I stopped, thinking, customer care starts at the doorstep. I'll give him a lift. And I did. The old man told me something interesting. He even chided me a little. "Why don't you drive out past the farms to Glazova? It's a big village. The road's a bit rough, but the people there are desperate. You could make a good bit of money." And in my excited state, I say, "Yeah, I'll head over there right now and check out this new place." Back then, I had a road atlas. I remember I'd explored everything in it, but a lot of places weren't even marked. It was the GPS of its time. So, I dropped off the old man, did my trading, and everything was fine. Then I headed to Glazova, past the farms. I go past the farms and see a dirt road, but it's well packed. I think, why not? And I start driving. It was already getting late, around 5:30 p.m. The road was very long. And what was strange was that I'd want to turn back, but it felt like the devil himself was holding my hand, forcing me forward. I'd get distracted by something and just keep driving straight. Then, for some reason, as if under a spell, I got out of the truck to stretch.
I just stood there for half an hour, enjoying nature. 30 minutes later, I reached Glazova. It was already past 7:30 and the sun was setting. I didn't like that village. I pull up and it's a big village, all right, but it's not Glazova. It's, hell, I don't know, Dogville or something. Dogs everywhere. Dogs here, dogs there, even in the trees. Dogs everywhere. Big, vicious ones. And the people, oh, the people there were so backward and terrifying. There was something not of this world about them.
I turned around, stopped the truck in the middle of the street, got out and climbed into the back to start selling. People start to slowly approach. They were terrifying. I often drive to remote places, so I'm used to people looking rough sometimes. But there was something wrong with these people's faces. You know, they all had something in common, something alien, something I'd never seen in people before. And their eyes were too shiny, like glass. And the people themselves, they didn't look poor or starving. I'd say they were well fed. I start trading, selling this and that, but I'm trying not to look at them. I swear to myself I will never come back to this Glazova again. It was because of their stares. I'd hand them bread and they wouldn't look at the bread. They'd look at me, as if they were waiting for something else that I wasn't giving them. And they bought everything, but reluctantly, as if they just came to look. And there was one particularly strange guy. He didn't approach at all, just stood there and stared, drilling me with his gaze. I'm quick to notice things like that. Hell, I could usually tell if a person was going to buy something or not just by their look. My eyes were trained. But these people, they were different. Their mannerisms were quiet and strange. And the village, no kids, no one, just dogs. Everything was overgrown, fences crooked. You couldn't tell right away if anyone even lived there. And because of these strange feelings, I was holding a knife in my left hand, a good one. See, some people don't have money for 5 loaves, for example, but they have enough for 4.5. With this tool, I could chop a loaf in half with one touch. But right then, I was clinging to it like a lifeline, and the villagers' eyes kept darting to the knife. The trading is going on, people are coming, and it's getting dark. Almost twilight. I'm standing in the back of the truck and I realize, no, I can't stay here until dark. I have to leave. And it seemed like even more people were gathering. I announced that I'm closing up, the goods are running out, and that I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow, I say real loud. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure that saved my life. The people tensed up, especially that guy. He never took his eyes off my hand with the knife. He was just staring at it and at me. I jump down, close everything up, and he says to me, "You forgot to put your knife away. You're gonna drive with it like that?" "Yeah, I keep it in my glove compartment," I reply. I realize that people are all around me. They've already surrounded me. I'm in a half circle, and like an idiot, I turn my back. You can't do that. "So, you'll be back tomorrow?" Yeah, what time should we expect you?" "Around 2 in the afternoon," I lie. "And if you don't come," he pressed. And his hands, you should have seen his hands. He was clutching something under his jacket, and his eyes started darting around. Oh, they were darting. I could see he was barely holding himself back, and the other people started looking at me differently. "Tomorrow at 2, I'll bring more goods. Everything's sold out today, so be waiting." "We'll be waiting," someone whispered. I jump in the truck and lock the doors. Nowadays you have buttons, but back then you had to push down a pin. And just in time. As soon as I start to move, that same guy jumps onto my running board. He was going to cut me. He smashed the window with the hand that held the knife. But I didn't let go of my own. I was squeezing it, ready to strike, but he managed to jump off. As I'm driving out of the street, I see a dog carrying a mangled human head by the hair, gnawed on. These people, they were cannibals. That's why I'd never seen them, never heard of them. No one ever told me about them, so I wouldn't end up lost there, even though I'd asked the locals many times about other places to drive to. I'm driving and thinking, I'm going back to that old man and I'm gonna knock his block off, make him see purple for a couple of months. I tear back to the village, and there's a commotion. A crowd of people is gathered around one house, boarding up the windows. I pull up and explain the situation to the men, about how some old man from their village gave me the bad advice. One of them crossed himself and said, "That wasn't an old man, that was the witch's demon. He often turned into something or someone to scare and confuse people. We were waiting for the witch to die. We were afraid to strike her, but she's dead now. We'll board up the windows and doors and let her rot in there." And that village, Glazova, it's a village of cannibals. They developed a taste for human flesh. No stores, no jobs. And that witch, and a few others, they taught them that it's okay to eat people. At first, they dragged people out of their homes, and they got so good at it they ate their whole village.
Then they started snatching people from the road. And now, like hunters, they send a couple of people from the village to go near the city and take someone. They bring the meat back. That's why the village isn't on any map. And it's such a mess around there that no one would ever go check on it. He also taught me that cannibals always have a lot of dogs or pigs. They're good at finishing off the leftovers. Dogs don't eat the bones, of course, but they'll scatter them and gnaw on them so much that you can't tell what anything is anymore. That's why there were so many dogs there. They didn't touch the locals from this village. They tried a couple of times, but the locals are good shots and can spot a cannibal right away. By their eyes. They glisten, and their faces are strange, almost predatory.
"Oh, look, there's a guy," I said, noticing the fog had gotten thicker, though the rain had almost stopped. The man was gesturing actively, yelling, and seemed to want a ride. "Don't look at him. Look in the woods, behind him." I looked into the woods and saw several glints of eyes. Wild animals. Yeah, right, wild animals. They're not animals, and they're not people. There are a couple of legends around here. Go on, grab the tire iron from under the seat. If he jumps on the running board, smack him with it, immediately. I grabbed the tire iron and saw in the rearview mirror that the man was running after us, and moving parallel to us through the woods were several pairs of eyes, glinting in the dark. My throat went dry and my chest tightened. The iron bar felt like it was bending in my grip. Who is that?" I said, watching the paranormal thing. "A lure, a decoy, a caller, whatever you want to call it. That's why I don't stop and pick up strangers. In fact, no one stops, and that's the right thing to do." "What are lures? And who is that running alongside us in the woods?" "Kalyan, in the deep woods there are villages or houses, mostly houses. A house in the middle of nowhere, for no one, just standing there. A hidden, inconspicuous house, usually by the road. One person lives in that house, or rather you only see one. It's a real living person, and a completely ordinary one, except I wouldn't call them people. It's a lure. He comes out onto the road at night, pretending to be anyone, but his goal is the same, to get into your cab or have you drive him somewhere. Over time, certain stretches of road get such a bad reputation that people stop stopping altogether. They just fly past, even if they have to hit someone. The bloodthirsty reputation does its work. Legends of terrifying hitchhikers who, if you pick them up, will leave nothing but your truck behind, with everyone inside vanished. All this makes people speed past. So the lures have to go to a normal stretch of road to trick you. Who they are and what they look like, I don't know. Nobody knows. And anyone who's seen them hasn't had much chance to tell about it. But they are tall and move on all fours. Those are the ones the lure works for. He lures other people to them. They say the lure is a person they spared, didn't kill, but did something to them that makes it impossible for him to tell you the truth. He just can't do it. And he can't run far from them, or he'll die. So he's forced to be their silent accomplice, feeding them people. They often pretend to be mushroom pickers. "Give me a ride, I'm lost," and you drive him to your own doom. They say it's easy to spot a lure, but few people know how. They never shut up, and they're incredibly polite, almost too generous. A lure doesn't play the role of a miserable person. He's cheerful, happy, chatty. He might offer you money, even 30,000 for a single kilometer. "Just give me a ride. Just turn here, yeah." And by morning you'll be listed as a missing person, and your truck will be found standing open. Sometimes his patrons might attack on their own, without his help. But that's rarer. What if you kill him, Kolya? He'll die. He's just a regular person. Or not regular. They did something to him. And the hut? What about the hut? They live there, eat, and heat the stove. It's not clear for whom, for the lure or for them. They also eat the lures themselves, or the ones who drive by often remember, that mushroom picker is evil. That's why I practically never pick up hitchhikers. And if I do, I look at him and listen to what he says. If he says he's lost, gets in the truck and falls asleep right away, asks for food or a drink, and just wants a ride anywhere, that's a real person in need. But if he's lost and his mouth never stops, and he's asking for something else, be afraid of hitchhikers like that, Sergey said as we drove out onto a lit road. I continued to grip the tire iron tightly, thinking about how hard my job was.
I came home in high spirits, although I was tired, wet, and even starting to stink a little, but today was Friday, and payday Friday at that. Holy smokes, what a day. I'm not even sure it's legal to give out paychecks right before the weekend. I kicked off my shoes in the hallway, sat down on the fancy shoe bench I bought in better years, and started greedily counting my money. This much is for our bills. This is for food and drink. This will go into savings just in case. And this, I clicked my tongue sarcastically, this is for whatever I want.
There wasn't much left for my wants and entertainment. In fact, there was very little. Looks like I wouldn't be having much fun. But then again, how much do I really need? I thought, holding $15,000 in my hands. I didn't have any bad habits. I wasn't known for partying. I don't go to bars or anything like that. All things considered, these $15,000 were kind of useless. They should probably be put aside for an emergency. But for some reason, it scared me that I couldn't afford anything extra. There was a time, not too long ago, when I could spend 15 grand before lunch on whatever I wanted. And now this was for a whole month. Oh well, that was then. Now I'm a regular working guy. I work in a store. I don't have to balance on a knife's edge anymore. I don't have to glance nervously at the phone and answer calls with a knot in my stomach. I don't owe anyone anything anymore. If they wanted to do something to me, they would have done it already. So I could forget about that life. I need to focus on this life. Besides, Yurok, one of my few buddies, is coming over soon. Truth be told, we barely even qualified as buddies. He was a very old acquaintance, someone I'd known for a long time. We used to visit each other's places, sometimes. Funny thing about him, Yurok was an extremely unpleasant guy. I don't know, he just seemed like a repulsive person. Pretty nasty with this sort of goat-like smirk on his face. But on the other hand, he'd impose himself on you in such a way that it just sort of happened on its own. And for some reason, you'd feel like telling him everything. Maybe I was trying to earn some kind of respect in his eyes, or maybe something else. I don't know, but he was an ambiguous personality. Shady, I'd say. But because we'd known each other for way too long, I trusted him to some extent. After all, we were friends, or rather, we kept in touch. We weren't really friends, both when I had money and when I didn't. That's why I took the bag and went to put some water on for the pelmeni, and at the same time, set out the treats for my guest. He wasn't here today for just a social call. Fedya, did you really buy me a beer and not get anything for yourself? I got myself pelmeni. Haven't had them in a while and got a craving. As for the hard stuff, you know I don't mess with that. Too bad. It's actually really tasty, and it helps you forget your problems for a while. And if you overdo it, it cleans out your brain better than any medicine. Well, I don't have anything to clean out. I generally don't collect garbage in there. Come on, lay out what business you have for me. Just don't tell me it's connected to my past. He fell silent, looking at me seriously. He filled a glass to the brim, and after 3 hearty gulps said, "Exactly. No. Why? You haven't even heard me out and you're already refusing. Because I already have enough heavy memories. So what? That was then, this is now. Forget it. Are you going to be afraid of cars for the rest of your life?"
I'm not afraid of them. I just don't want to remember it.
Keep your business to yourself. I came to you on business, in the sense that there's a job. Turn a steering wheel, make some cash. Your business is your business. I'm not trying to get into your soul. It's just that I've made some acquaintances here, literally about a month ago. Decent people, busy and with money. They need reliable workers who know the ropes. People who won't stick their noses where they don't belong, but will just drive and nod their heads. You get me? What makes you think I'm like that? Maybe I'm a curious fool. Nah, you can't fool me. You're a decent man, that's why I came to you. People like you are worth their weight in gold. You do what you say you'll do. That's what they need. Plus, experience. You have experience. And besides, don't worry. Nobody's going to stick you in a big rig. You'll be put in jail. Okay, just kidding. The job is in a small truck. No? Why are you repeating yourself like an old lady? No, no, no. At least listen. Listen, I don't really want to. I'm working as a gopher in a store right now. Fetch this, bring that, and you know what? I'm happy. I know my hours and my job. No tricks, no stress. And now you want me to start driving somewhere again. Are you a driver yourself? Yeah, well, I just drive myself around. Exactly. Go work for the man. Then you can tell me how you like it. So that's how it is. I come to him, want to offer him a job, and you. Why are you so invested in this job? What's in it for you? No, I already told you my part. You see, I kind of fumbled and told them you'd most likely agree. And now, you know, people are counting on it. Yura, I think I found a job for you, I said. Since you made a promise for me, you can be the one to get behind the wheel. You promised, so you drive. I personally want to disappear into the abyss of daily routine, and one day, just not wake up. That's it. Lived gray, will die gray. I've had enough adventures for a lifetime. I'm 33, but look at me. Silver in my hair. I'll be kicking the bucket soon. Just listen at least. What kind of guy are you? I knew it. Listen to what these respectable people are offering. They'll give you a small truck. You'll drive it around and deliver various goods. Don't worry, it's nothing like that. Different books, benches, maybe building materials. These people, let's say, are not exactly typical clients. I already figured that out when you started listing things. Well, you'll be hauling some occult junk, or something like it. Or rather, inventory. Well, how is it occult? Just ordinary things to different places. And you sign a contract. Everything's by the book. Do you even understand what you're hiring me for? How can anyone agree to this? It sounds creepy. Creepy? Well, perhaps yes, creepy. But not as creepy as how you're living now. Look at yourself. You're broke. You're a young, strong, and healthy guy, and you're sitting around counting pennies. I remember you when you could buy a car just because you felt like it. The local big shots used to shake your hand personally, and now, nobody would even offer you a hand. You've only got me, so I won't offer again. Just this. He placed a rather thick envelope on the table. They said, give Fedya the envelope and let him think it over. It's a sign of their serious intentions. Yura seemed flustered, quickly finishing what was in his glass. We talked for another 10 minutes, but it was disjointed and abrupt. Then he left, leaving me alone with my thoughts. When he was gone and the door was closed, I sat down at the table and looked at the envelope. I figured there was a very good sum in there for Yura. No, he had offered me work before, on, let's say, sketchy jobs. So his words about hauling occult crap caused me some slight anxiety. Who could these people be? A company that produces some kind of dark paraphernalia. Candles, masks, t-shirts. Maybe. After all, the truck would be small, which means not much cargo to transport. And damn that Yura, he was right. He knew how to press on my sore spots to make it hurt. And this just seemed to line up perfectly. I leaned back comfortably and plunged into the abyss of dead luxury, a place I go to weep over the corpse of my happiness. I used to be the owner of a transport company. A decent-sized staff, large volumes. I was on a first-name basis with everyone. And it was true, I wasn't a nobody in this city.
Everything was going smoothly, money was just pouring in, and at some point I thought I had found paradise. Everything was just perfect. We didn't take questionable orders, we didn't work for cheap, and thanks to agreements and the firm's solid reputation, we always had orders. I lived like a king. Cars, travel, I had it all. And then my car burned down.
Of course, I started to investigate, raising hell with everyone I could possibly find, but by lunchtime I was told some serious people want to talk to you. And by that evening, the people, or rather their representatives, were sitting in my office talking to me. The conversation was simple. Either I step aside, get peanuts in my account, and lay low, or all my trucks would burn down one by one. And if that didn't work, then something would happen to me too. In short, I didn't have much of a choice, and the situation was such that I could do whatever I wanted. No one would even touch my problem. They hinted at that too.
It's a shame about the money, but life is more precious. As my grandparents who raised me used to say, money can be earned. Of course, I tried to negotiate a better deal for myself, but it made little difference. Then the audits started. Not only did I give up what they paid me, but I also had to sell what I had left to pay off all the fines and debts that seemed to appear out of thin air. In short, all I had left was my apartment. A nice, luxurious apartment. And even maintaining it is becoming a burden. Of course, I sometimes bolt upright at night. I dream that I grab a rifle and shoot those people. I yell that I'm ready to die for what's mine. They just sit there, laughing their heads off. They have disgusting pig-snouted faces and horns growing on their heads.
By the way, they dissolved my business as soon as they bought it. No one even used it. They just broke up the firm to get rid of a competitor, and that was that. Naturally, I wanted to fix everything. I wanted to feel the taste of money, the taste of life and opportunity again, like before. But something inside me broke. Maybe the extreme and total injustice wore me down. The lawlessness killed my thirst for more. It's better not to have than to have and lose. Maybe it was because everyone told me, no, we won't help. Just do what they tell you. Maybe something else. But I really did withdraw into myself. A regular store employee with a 2-on, 2-off schedule. This was my shield and my armor. But I still thought about that other life. Every single day. And every day I convinced myself not to go back.
And then there was Yura. He knew, he could sense it, and he would come around offering jobs that one way or another beat around the bush of the same topic. With cargo, with the road. Maybe it's time to stop pushing life away and just open the door, to really try to earn again. I opened the envelope. There wasn't a lot, but it was nice. 10,500 rubles and a phone number. Well, there you go, 10 grand, just like that. I'll call tomorrow. Everything will be tomorrow. Of course, I talked to them the next day and even went over. First to my old job to quit, and then to them to see what it was all about. On the outskirts of town, there was a small lot, mostly filled with small trucks and some vans. We talked, had a conversation. Overall, I liked everything and decided, what the hell, I'll take it. It was a tiny company that handled small-scale transport. As they explained to me, if a client pays, they could send a whole truck for a single suitcase. It didn't matter. And their clients were mostly not simple people, people with money. They didn't tell me who exactly, but they gave me a whole stack of A4 papers and told me to study them carefully, and that today, at 5 in the evening, I had to be at the base to go on a trip with a mentor, so I focused on reading the documents. Rules and requirements for the driver during cargo transportation. 1. The driver must be neat and tidy. I skimmed down to the 12th point. The first 11 were clichés. 2. The driver is obligated to use only the navigation equipment installed in the vehicle. 3. The driver is forbidden from stopping for law enforcement officers. 4. The driver is forbidden from disclosing their travel routes. 5. During loading and unloading, the driver is forbidden from exiting the vehicle or looking in the rearview mirrors, unless specified in the client's request. See attached documents. 6. The driver is forbidden from being late. 7. The driver must have a SIN. 8. The driver is obligated not to leave the vehicle's cabin and to break laws in order to comply with the rules.
9. The company is obligated to protect the driver, except in exceptional cases.
I reread it about 4 times and couldn't understand, was it some kind of unfunny joke? What does "the driver must have a sin" even mean? What is that? The whole thing sounds like a creepy joke. Of course, I was on my guard, but I decided to go on the trip with their driver anyway. He'll probably tell me what's what. What's your name? I'm Fedka. And I'm Andriuka. Well, Fedka, let's go. The driver entered the route into the navigator and only then started moving. Andriuka, they gave me these rules here. Tell me, is this a joke? No, not a joke. They don't just waste paper over there for no reason. Of course it's not a joke. What kind of requirements are these? What kind of company is this anyway? Tell me, maybe I won't even take this job. You won't? It's too late, Fedka. You're already hired. A signature on a paper means nothing. You're going to work here now that you've shown up. And the company? Yeah, it's a creepy company. We drive around and haul different things, but let's take it one step at a time. The owner of this company is unknown, but I think it's someone from the unholy forces. Actually, I'm sure of it. We transport all sorts of things: coffins, dead bodies, occult items for Sabbaths, evil spirits bound in shackles. Sometimes you haul creatures that are terrifying to even speak of. These requirements they gave you, they're not a joke. For example, you can't look at certain individuals in the rearview mirror. You'll just die. They look so horrifying that your heart will stop. I'm telling you seriously. Seeing a living corpse stumble near the truck while its skin peels off in flaps is not a pleasant sight.
So it's better not to look. Plus, for example, different evil spirits react differently to being looked at. Vampires and ghouls really don't like it when you try to find them in the mirrors, Andre said, taking a drag from a cigarette. You still haven't figured out where you've landed, buddy. But it's okay, you will soon. The company is eerie and terrifying. You will see all the evil spirits, ghouls, vampires, and just plain witches. I don't believe you. You don't have to. I still don't believe it myself. The main thing, Fedka, is this. Don't even think about mentioning God or start whispering a prayer. They'll tear you apart right here in the cab. Personally, every time I drive, I just imagine I'm going to unload a circus. It's also strange, but it kind of makes you feel lighter.
Yeah, I'm getting out. I'm not going to work with this. I don't have the right to stop, but I won't hold you. Go on, jump out while we're moving. I pulled on the door, but it didn't open. But the driver hadn't locked it. When you sign up for service with unholy forces, don't think it's going to be easy. You're not getting out of this car. It has already accepted you into its service. But I'm a man of faith. I've lived right with a clear conscience. That's bad, because the driver must have a sin. Why? Well, how can I put it? Sin is a marker for our own kind. If you're a murderer like me, then the evil forces see you as one of them. But if you're righteous, well, like you, then they see an enemy in you and might attack. But don't worry, I can teach you how to sin. It's not a tricky business. If you want, after the trip, we can go to a little place, and you can pick a sin to your liking.
No, I think I'll pass. I've lived right and I want to continue doing so. As you wish, but don't knock the job. I'm personally happy to be working here. What's there to be happy about? That your employer is the devil? Maybe so, but he's honest and provides truly excellent conditions. I joke about a full benefits package, but that's nonsense. The money and the things you'll see, you won't be able to tell anyone about it. Yes, but you will see places where the living have never been and are unlikely to ever be. You haven't forgotten that we're not allowed to use other navigators, right? He nodded toward the navigator on the dashboard. And what's so special about it? Open yours and see where we are. I opened my phone, the maps, and it couldn't determine my location.
We travel on secret paths, you see. Roads that may seem ordinary at first, but are far from simple later on. Some roads were built by humans, some by evil spirits, and some, nobody built them. They have always been here. This navigator doesn't lead you by the fastest route.
It only leads to the final destination, and it makes absolutely no difference if that destination is on the other side. It will take you there too. Then, where are we? I started to look around. To the left and right was a forest, and ahead, a city in the valley below. Quite ordinary, and the sun hadn't set yet. Not even twilight. Evening. We're on the other side, Fedya, or something similar to it. There are no living beings here, except for us.
And this little Japanese truck, it's special. It has the right of way for passage and delivery everywhere. And it tells those around us not to dare encroach on the living souls in the cab. That's exactly why the rules say not to get out of the truck, except for loading and unloading. And what happens if I get out? Good question. I've heard about those who got out. They say when you get out and blink, you lose the truck. You just won't see it anymore. It's protected by signs that hide us. And you yourself, you will become part of the world you stepped out into. And later, some entity or something like that will devour you. Because here on this land, phenomena like curses, the evil eye, the rising of the dead, these are no joke. Oh, I must say, every world is unique. In some, people lived. In others, they never existed. In this one we're driving through, people lived.
Their world was similar to ours, but something went wrong here. I come here quite often. The world is mostly quiet. 99% of the time I don't see anyone. And what could have happened here? Occult knowledge. Here in this world they decided there was no point in keeping information about UFOs, magic, and occult knowledge and secrets hidden. The information became accessible and it led to a catastrophe. These worlds are not just similar, they were, let's say, at some point, copies of our own. There are cities here that also exist in our world. For example, Krasnoyarsk. But there are also those that never existed. In any case, this world is not simple. It's different. It is a part of the great horror and nightmare that is happening everywhere. And we, like pathetic ants, don't even understand it, he said as we approached the city. It looked like any large city. Multi-story buildings, rusted-out car frames, bones, shattered windows. All of it externally resembled the end of times, where there is nothing living, where a dead reality consumes the remnants of human presence. And now listen to how a dead city sings. Andriuka eased off the gas and cracked open the window. The wind. Yes, only it roams this city, the last resident. Oh well, we can't stop, we have to keep going. Although I'll admit, sometimes passing by places like this, I want to stop, have a smoke, look and think. It brings on a feeling, something you can't explain. Don't you think there's no life here? There's plenty of it and plenty of danger. Since we're here and almost arrived, it means there's activity, Andriuka said as we drove along empty roads. The landscape around was utterly oppressive. The city seemed to be standing, seemed to be whole, but there was no one. And how long has it stood like this? And how much longer will it stand?
That's why I don't regret working here, Fedka. Yes, maybe it's scary, sometimes creepy. My hair will turn gray earlier than it should, but a person gets used to everything. And think about it. Would you ever have seen anything like this? For that alone, it seems to me it's worth taking a job here and driving around. Maybe, I whispered, observing the mesmerizing beauty of the dead landscape, of a decaying world. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to some kind of base, stopping for loading at gate 11. Let's go. Just remember, don't talk. The rules this time say we have to help with the cargo. But here's an important condition. Don't speak to them and act natural. Just help them load the cargo and that's it. And yeah, prepare for a strong stench.
We got out in the twilight. The 11th gate was slowly rising and I saw what was inside the warehouse. It was a branch of chaos. Boxes, forklifts, coffins, slabs, granite, people, creatures in cages, and who knows what else. Andriuka handed the documents to us something that came out. A four-eyed man carefully examined them and waved to someone growling something. Andriuka started to open the truck for loading. A couple of minutes later, they dragged a steel coffin wrapped in chains to the gate, and the chains on it were massive, as thick as my arm, But what was worse, something was thrashing inside it. Our help wasn't needed. They managed to load it onto the truck with a forklift, and when they had, they threw some kind of device in there. It hissed and started to steam. Andriuka closed the truck, took the documents, and we went back to the cab.
Well, he asked, what was that?
Why do you ask questions we're not even supposed to know the answers to? I don't know. Another creepy creature. Honestly, I don't want to work for this company. I'm even afraid to imagine what they transport here. No, you're wrong. You can't imagine what they transport here. Even I am surprised by what I see every time, my mentor said, and we started driving back. We drove in silence at first, but then I couldn't shut up. I told Andriuka about my past life, how I became a driver, how my company was taken from me, how I ended up as a loader, and all that. Andriuka just nodded silently, occasionally asking a question. And just like that, without noticing, we drove back to our world and our base, where the boss was waiting for me. So, how was the trip? Did you like it? He asked, squinting slyly.
I'm impressed.
Yes, we have that effect. We'll be waiting for you at work tomorrow. There's a lot to do. Be here tomorrow by 5 in the evening. You've seen everything, you've understood everything. So don't be late, he said and left. Well then, Fedka, are you coming with me to burn away the bright moments of your soul and engage in some sinning? I know a couple of such places around here. No thanks. I think I'll head home, I said, shaking his hand and trudging to my car, which was parked outside the territory. You're making a mistake. They will punish you. I heard a quiet voice behind me, but when I turned around, I saw no one. The night at home was a nightmare. I came home completely drained. My head was all foggy as if in a daze, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Yurka was constantly calling for some reason. I decided I was too tired and would deal with it all later. I showered, had dinner, turned on the TV for background noise, and fell into bed, only to see something that was either a dream or who knows what. I was lying there watching television when I heard footsteps. Someone was walking from the far room, wearing shoes over the tile and granite. The steps were measured, calm, getting closer and closer, and I was lying on the couch, listening in horror to whoever could be walking around my apartment in the middle of the night. The footsteps approached and my heart stopped, and then he appeared in the doorway, or rather I did, only dead. My skin was cracked, my eyes were sunken, and there was a wound on my neck. I slowly walked toward myself and said, "It's time to commit a sin." I started screaming, just to jolt myself off the couch for real. My phone was buzzing insistently on the table, and of course it was Yura. I was already awake. 23 missed calls. I picked up.
Hello? Why are you blowing up my phone, you moron?
Hey, I just wanted to check on you. I sent you on that job and you went dark. I was worried something might have happened, so I had to find out. Can I come over? Come over? Now? You know what? No, probably not. Why? Tell me, what kind of guys are they? Yura, it's the middle of the night. I want to sleep. You should too. But it's the weekend. No, that's it. Goodbye. I hung up, but my soul felt like it was being torn apart. No, he didn't call for no reason. Something was happening. Something was wrong. I knew I was going to work for a rather unusual place, but damn it, I felt like there was something I wasn't getting. After all, when I was leaving the motor pool, someone told me I was making a mistake and that I would be punished. But who was it? Who said that? I thought hard about it for a good 10 minutes, and I came to the conclusion that I was, quite literally, at a crossroads. I had lived my whole life the right way. I never got my hands dirty, never screwed anyone over, and generally slept soundly. I was strong, had no bad habits, in short, a good man. And now, this word, sin. Why had sin started appearing so often in my life? Why was Yura, a driver of all people, talking about committing one? Why was it even written in the rules that a driver must have a sin? It was like I was being tempted. The devil's hand seemed to be squeezing me from all sides, telling me, It was time to experience dark pleasures. But something inside me resisted, pushed back. I was mostly raised by my grandparents. My parents weren't particularly interested in me. Their lives revolved around the bottle, and I was just in their way. Because I was raised by older people, I was naturally a bit more religious than most. My grandmother always told me that a devil and an angel are always with us. The angel on the right, the devil on the left. That's why when we spit over our left shoulder to avoid jinxing something, we're spitting at the devil, right in his evil eyes. Not to jinx in this context meant not to ruin something, so we spat on the devil to make sure our plans worked out. My grandfather also always told me, live honestly. You won't find happiness, but you won't find sorrow either. And I did live honestly, I have to give him that. He had a lifetime of experience behind him, and everything would have been fine if my company hadn't been squeezed out, and now, this.
It wasn't a dream, it was a vision. It was the devil who came in my image. I had heard stories about how a devil or an angel can come to a person in a liminal state and tell them something, to warn them or conversely to scare them. Those stories about the domovoi who came with warnings usually happened when a person was falling asleep or waking up, when the brain was between two worlds. That's when it all happens. I only heard once of a domovoi coming to someone just like that, but it ended tragically. The domovoi strangled him. And here, the devil had come. He came to intimidate. And the driver's phrase, that service with the devil is never easy, was also unsettling. I slowly began to understand that maybe everything was a mistake. I shouldn't have gone there. I shouldn't have given in to emotion in the moment. But I also understood that Yura wasn't calling for no reason, and that voice from nowhere at the motor pool when I was leaving. For some reason, I felt that I hadn't crossed the line just yet. They were all waiting for something, wanting something. It was as if I hadn't stumbled yet, but I was closer to the edge than ever. They would definitely drag my soul away. I decided to pray, though I hadn't done it in a long time. I knew a lot of different prayers, but as my grandmother used to say, prayer is just a formality, not an obligation. You can just ask. The main thing is to be sincere and speak from the heart. Then you will be heard. So even though I knew a lot, I had also forgotten a lot. But I prayed from the heart. After that, I went to sleep, and I slept sweetly and without dreams.
In the morning, I woke up, refreshed and full of energy. Yesterday's strange fatigue was gone, replaced by vigor and positivity. I got ready to go to the store. The 10 grand they gave me came in very handy. I was going to buy some containers, a thermos, and other small things. After all, I was working as a driver, and in a rather strange place at that, so I needed to stock up. The whole day passed under this motto, get myself in order, find my documents and all that. Although I wasn't sure I even needed documents for an organization like this. As they told me in our first conversation, the main thing is experience. Well, I didn't have a ton of experience, but I'd been behind the wheel for 6 years. Too bad all that romance wore off like a bad fart in the cab. It happened within the first 2 weeks, when I got hit with major fines due to severe sleep deprivation. It also shattered my nerves. That's when the romance ended. All that was left was the gray routine. There was a lot of time until evening and nothing to do. I decided to invite Yura over, the same Yura who had been blowing up my phone since yesterday and hadn't given up today. I told him on the phone, to hell with it, come on over. So, how's it going? Everything good hauling cargo? Yeah, milk, grain, whatever they give me. I see. Well, that's good that you got a job. I just knew this job was for you. You're driving today, right? Yeah. Great. I'm so happy your life is getting back on track. You were always walking around looking like a storm cloud. Now you'll make some quick cash and start living. And then, who knows, maybe you'll open your own company.
No, I'm not opening another one. I'm done with that. Well, okay, this is good too. We sat around talking and chatting, and I noticed something strange about Yura. He didn't contradict me. Usually he was sarcastic, but now he agreed with me, encouraged me, which was completely out of character for him. He wasn't a person. He was poison come to life, but here he was, and then I realized the purpose of his visit. He wanted to know, for sure, that I had taken the job, that I had signed everything, and that I was definitely going. It looked as if he wanted to send me there. I thought about it and at some point decided to test my theory. "Listen," I said, interrupting him.
What's up?
It's a tricky situation, I just remembered. I need money for gas, otherwise I won't make it. Amazingly fast and without any questions, $2,000 lay on the table. Thanks. When should I pay you back? Forget it. You're on your way up, I'm just helping out, he said happily, and then continued his story about some nonsense. And I sat there, thinking that it seemed my whole life depended on whether I went there or not. We sat for a long time, until 4, and even then, Yura kindly asked me to give him a lift to the city. He's testing me, I thought. But why? Of course, I agreed and let him in the car. We drove to the gas station, and just as we were approaching the depot, I dropped him off. Then I drove to work myself. Out loud, I said, "God help me. I don't know what to do or what's happening." This was it, the moment of truth. Documents in hand, I was driving to some backwoods, to a hut in the forest. I would have to get out, pick up some packages and come back. That was basically it. Only these papers were full of prohibitions. Don't stop, don't get out, and so on. In short, I was only supposed to get out of the car when I arrived. The rest of the time, I wasn't even allowed to use my phone. For some reason, that made me very uneasy. Just as uneasy as seeing Yura standing on the street. He was standing with someone on the other side, but I swear he was smiling and watching me leave, as if I were heading to my death. He's joking, I told myself, continuing to drive. Messing with a company like this could be costly. All I had left was hope, so I kept going. The GPS showed that I had an hour and a half to my destination, and during that time, I had a lot to think about. Because right now, my fate would be decided. I knew it. 40 minutes later, it got dark. I followed unfamiliar paths into some dense, ancient place. In the sky, instead of the summer sun, a huge moon was shining, and my path lay through the forest. I couldn't take this waking nightmare anymore, and I decided to do the very thing they so fiercely warned me against. "God help me," I said aloud. Something in the car jerked, and I was afraid it had stalled, and I couldn't get out, and that strange moon, or rather the light from the moon was falling, but it didn't make things any brighter. The tops of the trees were somewhat illuminated, but the road and everything else, no. The light was somehow wrong, dimmer, but the moon was enormous. The headlights perfectly lit up the road. Everything was perfectly visible, and the road was straight as an arrow, leading uphill. I took the documents and started flipping through them, slowly reading what was forbidden, what was allowed, and so on. And at some point I remembered the strange thing at the motor pool. Maybe this mysterious someone had left his mark here too. As I scrolled through the tablet, I decided, without knowing why, to unclip the documents and look at the back. My destination was getting closer, and on the second-to-last page I saw an inscription, apparently made in pencil so it was barely visible. But I saw it, and it said, "Don't go. They'll sacrifice you there. Stop the car. Run into the woods. Call for Leshy. He will help." Breaking all the rules, I stopped the car, killed the engine, opened the door, and heard it. Drums, screams, wails, somewhere in the distance, and fireworks shot up into the sky. I was very close. I threw the keys in the truck and ran into the forest, noticing the abnormality of the place. The air here was different, heavy, saturated. The smell of pine needles was strong, and the forest itself was a collection of horrors and nightmares, dark, spooky, and ancient. Owls hooted in it, and wolves howled in the distance. I jumped and, pulling my phone from my pocket, saw an unknown number. "Hello?" Someone was growling on the other end. "Get back to the car. We know you ran. Come back, or we'll find you in this forest ourselves." I hung up and threw the phone away. I was left standing there to think. In this situation, everything was simple. Everything except the part about Leshy. I only knew one way he could appear, by chopping down a tree with a dull axe, but I didn't have an axe. So the plan was great, but poorly implemented, and I didn't know what to do now. But I knew that at least I hadn't gotten out of the car for nothing, and now I knew they were coming for me. From the direction of the hut that was my destination, it became quiet. The drums weren't beating, the fireworks weren't flying, but a wave of movement rolled through the forest, and I began to move slowly in the opposite direction, constantly muttering for Leshy to come. But Leshy didn't come. Moving in a forest like this was sheer hell, damp and cold. The air was heavy, my head ached, and they were on my trail. They were far away for now, but I was sure they would find me. So after 30 minutes of pushing through bushes, I realized I was making too much noise, and I was moving too slowly. It made sense to hide. As far as I remembered, fiends have certain problems with circles. I chose my spot, a fallen log. I squeezed under it, after drawing a circle with a stick, and I began to wait, and I only had to wait a couple of minutes. I sat under the logs and heard a growl in the forest. Dogs had arrived. They ran around in the dark, growling, and only their red eyes told me they were close. I started to breathe more quietly as they were walking nearby. Footsteps, human footsteps, came from the left and right. They walked quietly, without talking, but there were many of them. Sometimes I saw yellow lights. They were someone's eyes. God help me, I whispered, holding my breath. He's around here somewhere, hiding. He's drawn a circle around himself. Search for him here. The tracks end. We'll get you, just as soon as we figure out where the circle is, and then we'll finish you. Set the hounds on the trail. Let them search. This is the end, I thought, and they began to search. The dogs quickly figured out where I was and marked the circle. That's not exactly how it works, someone said, and I, growing cold, scrambled out from under the branches, intending to run. But there was nowhere to run. Shadows stood all around. Dogs were growling. I was all alone. All right, go in, someone said, and screaming something, I threw myself away, just to escape and buy some time. Though I knew I wouldn't get away. I ran out, jumped into the darkness. I was hit. I flew back. A dog lunged, but someone kicked it. Someone grabbed me by the collar and shoved a hand over my mouth with the words, "Shut up." And I didn't just shut up. I wasn't even sure I was breathing. Where is he? Where is that damn idiot? It's your fault for lunging like that, stupid dogs. A squabble broke out, and someone, still holding me with one hand, carried me away. Only after about 30 minutes was I put back on the ground and told, "You can talk now." It was the voice of an old man, but I could see his eyes were bright green, and he himself was tall, about 2 to 2.5 meters. "Are you Leshy?" "Yes," he said. "I don't know what they told you. You asked and you were answered. I'm saving you because I was told to wait for you here, and I'm waiting. I don't like the coven here. I don't like what's going on, so I'm ready to help anyone who stands against them."
Will you get me out of here? Yes, of course. I was asked to tell you something. When you get out of here, you'll go home. Don't worry, they won't look for you. But you'll have to do something. Find the one who called you to this job and kill him. And remember, he is not human. But I'm just passing on the message. The rest is up to you. Let's go. The border is not far from here. I sat at home, sharpening my axe, sprinkled it with holy water, drank some myself. It was only now that I realized that the cause of all my troubles was Yura. I had long suspected he was not who he claimed to be. I was going to pay him a visit and finish what had started. "Bro, why the axe? Why not friendship? What are you doing?" A second before these words, I swung at the thing in the doorway, aiming for the collarbone, and it collapsed on the floor, clutching the wound from which a light smoke was rising.
"You're to blame for everything. Begone, creature!" I brought the axe down on Yura's head, and he fell, and I saw his true face. His skull was almost split in two, but his twisted lips could still speak. Damn. Yes, a demon. What can you do? Not everyone is human. "Bro, why are you doing this? Let's make a deal." "Why? Why are you doing this?" I said,
putting my foot on the fiend's massive chest. It twitched, not even trying to resist. Well, how? What did you expect? You're essentially without sin, and people like that are valuable. I was asked. You understand? I was asked to bring you. No humans work there. They're all fiends. I wanted to, but it turned out this way. And the business? What about my business?
I admit I sent them too, but we needed you to either commit some sin or prove the purity of your soul. You proved it, so it was needed, but you didn't arrive. But don't chop. Don't take this on your soul. I'll return everything. You know I'm one of the oldest who walks the earth. I have connections there, any kind of deals. What do you want? Money? Here, right now, I'll give you everything. I removed my foot, and the demon, quickly crawling to the dresser, opened the bottom drawer. It was filled with money. Here it is, take it all. This is more than your business was worth. Take it all, it's all yours. Just don't finish me off, okay? That's it, I get it, you're a serious guy. Stop, don't. I did what Leshy told me to do.
The severed head of the fiend rolled across the floor, occasionally making a noise as its horns hit the ground. I pushed the body away with my foot. It was already starting to crumble into dust, and with a second kick, I slammed the drawer shut, the one with the blood-soaked money inside. Lord, thank you, I said, crossing myself, anticipating a normal life.